The story begins with reflections. I wonder how much time has passed since then. Hiding in the maze, picking up equipment, and selling them at the market to make ends meet. Hidden by the darkness. Today he again held his breath and cowered so that no one would see him, so that he would not attract anyone's attention, so as not to be killed, and so that everyone would forget about him. The narrative of the action begins in June. There are a lot of kids in the class talking to each other. One says he's in trouble again because of the tests. He means it's because of math. Kurosei Hikaru is sitting and reading a book. He's a freshman in high school, and he hears and thinks they're so noisy in the morning. A girl named Nanami, with glasses, wishes Kurosei Hikaru a good morning. He raises his head, waves his hand, and wishes her a good morning too. Nanami is surprised to say that he treats his childhood friend so coldly, who replies, "Didn't he say that they would stop acting like childhood friends when they become freshmen?" She takes offense, saying that they went to school together. He replies that it was in elementary school, and since she was slow, they were always late. He didn't know then that the madness that would engulf the entire planet was coming with every passing moment. The teacher explains everything and writes on the blackboard. He invites everyone to consider this issue. Suddenly, a panicked girl screams at everyone to watch what's happening on TV. The teacher turns around and is indignant at what she is shouting about. Let her focus on the lesson. Because of the noise, they all pay attention to the TV screen. Kurosei Hikaru looks up with interest. Another boy picks up his phone and shouts at everyone to watch, because the same thing is shown on smartphones. Someone points at the phone screen and assumes that someone is joking and joking. They try, but realize that it won't turn off. Suddenly, a certain bright being on the TV screen declares that he is God. The face and details are not visible. The teacher is outraged that he says such a thing at all. He prevents him from conducting the lesson. Students are running down the hallway and shouting that, apparently, the same thing is shown on the B-class TV. God says that his sudden appearance in this form should have been a surprise. The teacher, in a rage, tears the cable from the TV from the outlet. The screen continues to work. God says that the time he has been waiting for is when they, his dear children, will fully grow up and be ready. Everyone is terrified that it won't turn off. They all humbly listen to what he says. God says that he will choose 1,000 people. They will be chosen by a randomizer. Everyone is looking at their phones. On the other side of the world, people see the same screen on their phones and wonder if it's real. God says he will choose from middle-aged businessmen to teenagers and even the elderly, all kinds of people. People don't understand if this is a joke. He says that 1,000 people will end up in another world that is different from this one under his control. He's talking about a parallel world. God explains that this is an additional world created to reflect their human actions. One student says that, in fact, this is reincarnation, while others still do not believe it, asking if it is real, if it is not a dream. Kurosei Hikaru believes and thinks that selecting only 1,000 people out of about 7 billion of humanity is statistically 1 out of 7 million, and this is almost a 0% chance. God says that the chosen ones will be able to live in another world as freely as they want. They are not obliged to do anything for him, but for this freedom, they have to pay the price of death. Kurosei Hikaru thinks it's unwise to go through the selection process only to be killed in the end. God says that, of course, he will not send them empty-handed to help them survive. They will receive a gift, and that's why he has prepared something for all people living on Earth. At a certain time, everyone will be able to follow the adventures of 1,000 inhabitants of the other world in real time by connecting to the broadcast. He says that there will be live broadcasts for every inhabitant of the other world, and by tuning into their web streams, they will help them and give them strength. He asks if it doesn't sound funny. One student asks if God is going to use the internet. The other girl tells him to shut up because she can't hear God. The third one tells her to be quiet. God says that the owners of the other world with great views will receive various special privileges and will be able to count on bonuses that will make their lives easier. For details, he asks you to check the More Details option on the websites. God announces that the selection has already ended. The selected people have received marks in certain places on their bodies. This is something that cannot be faked by them, humans, at their technological level. Everyone is looking at their bodies in panic. Where is this mark? One asks to see if he has anything on his back. God asks if they have already guessed why he suddenly appeared and developed such a plan. He's having fun. In truth, he had been thinking about this from the very beginning, since their level of civilization had reached a certain point. He would be doing them an interesting favor. God says that perhaps there will be those among them who will rise to his level of existence. Maybe their moral feelings will go crazy. In any case, they can consider it a kind of reward that he gives them. He asks them to enjoy to the fullest. God says that he swears by himself, that is, by God, that the selection process is random. Kurosei Hikaru thinks that the chance of being chosen is equivalent to winning the lottery. The marks are certainly not on his back. God laughs and asks if they understood his joke. He remembers and says that he forgot to say something important. The location of the mark is on their palms. Everyone is frantically looking at their palms. Kurosei Hikaru raises his palm and thinks that it doesn't look like he has it. His eyes widen when he sees Nanami in a strange position, hiding her palm. She turns to him in dismay, tears welling up in her eyes, after which she addresses him by name. A few seconds later, she shows off her palm, which had a mark on it. Kurosei Hikaru is shocked and thinks that this is impossible. A little later, at Nanami's house, she lies in bed and says that this is the worst thing. Why is she the one? The hero looks at the phone and says that a total of 43 people were selected from Japan. The transfer date is at 9 a.m. He looks and thinks that there is a theme of God on the internet and on websites. Nanami asks in a trembling voice if anyone can. Kurosei Hikaru interrupts her and says that it's probably impossible. The information that's out there now is mostly useless. She's crying and doesn't understand why she's thinking about her life plan. Kurosei Hikaru understands that at the moment there is no useful information that could calm Nanami down. He turns to her and says that he will collect information so that a person like her can fully enjoy the world of Isekai. He wants Nanami to happily go to the world of Isekai. She continues to cry, and Kurosei Hikaru thinks that this is the last thing he can do at the moment to help his childhood friend in any way. At school, all the students come up to her with interest and ask if it's not cool. Everyone takes pictures of her and wants to get to know her. Kurosei Hikaru thinks that all this noise at once is too much. His childhood friend has completely turned into any child of this era. He explained to her that it seemed like skill points were distributed before transferring. In other words, a skill point was the ability to empower oneself. She speaks to him, and he stops and listens. She starts talking about moving things. She takes things out of her backpack and asks to take a look, because God said that you can take some things. Kurosei Hikaru says that if this is the case, then Japan should support the chosen people over the high-tech bulletproof vests from America. She takes out something and says she wants to take this photo with her because she will be homesick. Kurosei shouts that it is better to bring a bulletproof vest. It has blade resistance, impact resistance, fire resistance, but it costs more than 10 million. She says that according to God, they will be forced to fight, so we need something free and sweet. Kurosei Hikaru admits, after the silence, that he is worried. They still don't know if the parallel world they will enter will be as peaceful as Japan or not. In her place, he would have been patient and tried to learn how to use as many weapons as possible. Nanami looks away and asks, on the contrary, isn't it dangerous to stand out like that? Kurosei Hikaru says that's why it's not better to hide yourself under something like a robe. She looks as if she is hiding something from him. Kurosei Hikaru puts his palm on the table and says that then he will continue. He says the glasses can also be used to trade items and gold, not just to expand their capabilities. There is no way to get out of this. Even he wants her to choose survival. The main character wishes Nanami to live a long life. He leaves her house. Nanami apologizes for making him leave so late all the time. Kurosei asks not to apologize. They will see if he can gather more information. They exchange glances. The main character smiles and says that if she prepares enough, then this world can become an unexpectedly good place. He says goodbye, but Nanami abruptly grabs his hand and asks him to wait. She wipes her tears with her fingers. Kurosei Hikaru looks at her with a sincere smile. She says that she will try her best. The main character says that since they start early tomorrow, she needs to get some sleep as soon as possible. 1 month before the transfer, due to the fact that both of his sisters know languages, they collected foreign information. There was a bulletin board for the otherworldly on the official website that God created, but it was filled with a bunch of curious headlines with no real useful information. God's broadcasts are updated only weekly, and information about the parallel world will gradually be shared with selected people. The site became the most popular in the world in the blink of an eye, and the days pass instantly. Thus, the day of displacement arrives. It's a little over 8 a.m., and Kurosei Hikaru says he came in a little late. He presses the bell, but no one answers. He wonders if, even though it's her transfer day, she's still asleep. He pulls on the door handle and realizes that it is open. The main character comes in, wishes good morning, and says it's him. He sees the door and says it's strange that she didn't open the door, even though the light is on in the bedroom. Kurosei wonders if something has happened. He apologizes loudly and says that he will have to be more persistent. The main character walks up the stairs and asks if Nanami is here. She's not here. The house is empty. He knocks on the door of her room and asks if she is still asleep. If she is here, he asks her to answer him. He asks if she's okay. The silence scares him. The main character decides to open the door. He enters the room and sees Nanami covered in blood. She is sitting by the bed. He rushes to her, shakes her, and calls her name. Nanami doesn't react at all, and then Kurosei Hikaru begins to realize that Nanami is dead. There is silence. He starts talking in a panic. How come we need to call an ambulance? He searches for a phone and says he needs to make a call. Then someone sticks a knife in him from behind and says that it's better not to invite more people here. Kurosei Hikaru feels his back burning. It's worth the guy who wanted to meet her in class. He asks Hikari if it's really just the two of them, and he laughs and apologizes for killing his girlfriend. Kurosei Hikaru immediately remembers him saying that he was so jealous of her. He doesn't understand why this guy did this to Nanami. Why? Here the guy says that he should have gone to another world. That's why he killed her. He believes that Kurosei Hikaru will die anyway with his beloved, so he's not offended. This guy is laughing crazily. Kurosei Hikaru keeps asking why he did it. For what? He asks if he doesn't know. He answers with a smile that everything is simple, the strongest survive. He is strong, so he is worthy. Kurosei Hikaru doesn't understand what he's talking about at all. That guy says he's so crazy about the other world. Nanami didn't want to go there initially, so why doesn't she just die and give her place to him? So he decided to get rid of her on the last day. Kurosei Hikaru says that he is not a good person and they write all sorts of nonsense on the web. He replies that it's not him. He said it was them, incomprehensible creatures. The guy kicks the main character, causing him to fly towards Nanami's body. He is slowly losing consciousness from blood loss. He tells himself that this should not be, it is impossible, he cannot die. The guy leaves and says, I wonder if he will endure this torment during this time. He has an hour left. He leaves them alone in the room. The main character calls her name again and is surprised as soon as he sees the photo in her hands. Kurosei gently tells her that she is not a good person, after which he stretches out his hand to the photo and hopes only for a just God. The main character hopes that God will allow them to meet each other in another world. He looks at the picture of the two of them smiling. Everything is black in front of Kurosei Hikaru's eyes. Suddenly, he begins to realize that he is conscious. He abruptly opens his eyes. The main character finds himself in another very bright place. He gets up and wonders what kind of place this is. Is there really an afterlife? Why everything is white here? Kurosei sees his computer in front of him and asks if he's not dead yet. He remembers Nanami's dead body and starts crying. The main character hears something and pays attention to the computer. He approaches him and is surprised by what he sees. It says on the computer screen that Kurosei has been chosen as a carrier to another world. He must accumulate bonus points and level up. They wish him good luck. Let him hit the road. He looks at these words in disbelief and does not understand why he was chosen. So he was chosen instead of Nanami. He denies it and says that this theory was refuted by God himself. If he's here, then he's not dead. He thinks maybe he just passed out and his heart is still beating. He starts to think that Nanami is alive then too. Maybe she's awake somewhere now too. He sits down at the computer, thinking that if his assumptions are correct, Nanami should also be alive. As they say, hope dies last. The main character slaps himself in the face, clicks on the computer, and says that by all means he needs to find Nanami. An inscription appears on the screen that he will have 3 minutes to raise the level. He understands that his points will be awarded in 3 minutes. This time is his limitation. It has already begun. He twitches in panic, thinking that it is dangerous. The countdown is already on. How much is still there? He looks and sees that it is already less than half. He sees that at the moment he can use 75 skills, but their strength level is initial, resistance to living conditions. You need to get it. You will also need to buy clothes, money. There is also a transfer point. It says that transferring to a relatively safe place is 27 points, transferring to a completely safe place is 30 points, Accidental transfer costs nothing, but there may be lava, a huge forest, the sea. There are no guarantees for a safe place. He sees that he has only 24 points. He doesn't have enough, so he risks dying at the beginning of the game. The countdown ends. Kurose Hikaru just closes his eyes. The system wishes him a wonderful life and good luck. Everything lights up. He tells himself to go ahead. He is 17 years old. His specialties are night vision, spirit power, health is 2, boost 3. He has a bonus, poison resistance, remaining 24 points. He's moving around and thinks he's not going to die. He says to himself, welcome to another world. He's new member number 1000. Everyone in the city is looking at their gadgets and saying that everything has finally started. So many points, more than 1000, a lot. They are quite interested to find out what will happen in the future. Someone says that they will root for the Japanese, although they are all on equal terms now and there is no arguing. Someone thinks that Jean is so sweet. Someone says that everyone has too much access. It's annoying. Someone is wondering who Kurose Hikaru is. No one knows him. They ask if he has already died. How is it that only the first day has passed? At this rate, about 5 people a day are dying, and after 200 days, not a single person will remain there. I wonder where they will start their journey. I wonder if the people who were transported to the forest were able to get out. Everyone noticed that most of those who had been transported randomly had all died. All the people are watching TV in the center of Tokyo. They say that an entire family was killed in an apartment building in the city of Tsurumi. The victim was Nanami Soma, one of the migrants to another world, and a family in a residential area was killed. Meanwhile, Kurose Hikaru is running as fast as he can in the forest. Someone is chasing him. He turns around in a panic to figure out what it is. He sees a monster, a big fiery gorilla. The monster screams after him. He continues to run, but the monster's hand touches him. Kurose Hikaru abruptly wakes up in a sweat on a bed in a dark uniform and breathing heavily. He releases his suit. The main character remembers about that forest full of monsters. He's trying to catch his breath. Kurose gets up and calls up the menu. He sees that the number of viewers in real time is 46 million. The main character throws the phone at the wall and wonders if they've been watching all this time. He mentally asks them not to look at him, covering his face. Dark energy emanates from him and forms a shell around him. On the first day of the migration, he walked through the forest, looked around and thought that this was the guardian of the sword, a completely different scale. Kurose says out loud that he doesn't know where he is or where to start. At least he's already used to it. He brings up the menu. The menu appears in front of him. He is surprised and says happily that he feels just like in the game. He sees and says that there is so much information about him. The glasses can be used as a purchase item. He wonders if they can be exchanged into crystals. The main character decides to try, and a barrier stone appears above his palm. He is surprised that he has appeared, and that he is real. He reads that by breaking the stone, a barrier will appear around it. Kurose wonders how long it can be used. He thinks the subject is useful, but the points should be used wisely, besides whether he can get the crystals. The main character says that now we need to explore the area from below. Maybe there is a small settlement of people nearby. He worries about Nanami. He tells himself that he needs to adapt as soon as possible and look for information about her. He taps the card button. Kurose sees that the current location is the Ringville continent, East Makai. The density is 0, the danger of the population is 4, the distance to East Makai is 373 kilometers. He is surprised by such a distance and understands how random transfer works. The main character says it's too far, like from Tokyo to Nagoya. He abruptly remembers that besides, the degree of danger is 4 out of 6. What should he do? How to get out of the forest? The system asks if he wants to spend 1 crystal and get advice for life. A choice appears before him. Kurose Hikaru reflects that this is information for further survival. He can get it. Honestly, if you look at other options for 1 crystal, then this one is more suitable. He's thinking about what to do. It's too risky. Advice for life. There's only 1 piece of advice if it seems useless. He decides to take a chance and chooses this advice for himself. They give him advice to hide in the dark. Kurose Hikaru is outraged. Is this really all? Are they serious? He looks at what time it is, which means night is the most optimal time. He has night vision skills, however. He abruptly realizes he has a dark spirit. The main character says that this technique would be great right now. Is it worth buying it? If you buy 10 points, it's a lot of money. It would be better to buy fire or water. He's shouting that it's true. He wants to survive. There's no time to think right now. The basic skills are available, so that's enough. He will either reach his destination alive, or he will die before reaching it. He is told that he's acquired the Spirit of Darkness skill, a first-rank technique, the Dark Vortex, Dark Mist, skill level 0. He sees it all and thinks he can use them. The next day, Kurosei stands with heavy breathing. He stands by the tree, looking very intently in front of him. It's like Kurosei is trying to shrink into a tree out of fear. The main character sees that he is surrounded by the greedy eyes of monsters. They all growl at him and want to pounce. He realizes that he is surrounded. Is it really wolves that walk in packs? He thinks that he needs to use some skills to escape from them. Kurosei uses the dark mist and runs away. He sees that his hand is starting to darken. After the hand, the whole body turns black. He looks at it in shock and asks himself, what is going on? The main character sees that these bodies are all covered with black smoke. He looks at his palm and thinks that this is the dark perfume. The wolves look at him in surprise. Kurosei Hikaru goes hard and reflects that everything is not as simple as it seemed at first glance. Everything is in the dark, whether it was said in advance. He looks at the menu, that his energy is still full. This skill is not particularly expensive. He decides that he needs to look at the list of all skills to find the right one. The main character sees that his skill has increased. He has only used it once, and a new night vision skill has appeared. He says that if he uses it all the time, the level will rise. In the dark, he sees only shining lights, so he decides to compare them for a difference and uses night vision. The main character is surprised that he looks as good as he did during the day. He thinks that thanks to night vision, this technique is very effective, so all is not lost yet. Coming back to the present, he thinks that at that time he was wondering if he would be able to do anything if he passed through this forest. He stretches his hand into the dark tunnel, searches for something among the things, and says, "So this is all there is," grabbing 2 balls. Most of the things that seemed to be useless but sold very well, such as equipment for living and food. He says that in any case he needs to earn a lot of money now. He comes to someone, they hand him 4 silver coins. Kurosei Hikaru says that it's not much. He realized it too late. The master says that you can take spirit stones from monsters. They also vary in color and size. He says that these stones are pretty good, but it's not that difficult to get them. Besides, he only brought 2 stones. Kurosei Hikaru grabs the coins and says that, after all, it's money, thanks the old man. The master asks him to wait. He asks him, he wants to earn money, he's going to come home soon. Kurosei Hikaru asks what that means, but it's still uncomfortable. The master says he needs a spy, and besides, there are plenty of clients. The man is talking about the Great Labyrinth of Neltia. This city is also known for the Great Maze, and the maze itself is located in the center of the city, where you can get good rewards. The master says that if he's interested, this is his great option to earn extra money. Kurosei Hikaru asks what needs to be collected. He replies that all you have to do is defeat the monsters and take the stones from them. Kurosei Hikaru asks, what is the benefit of this? The master asks if one person can get a lot of stones. Isn't that a good thing? He replies that there is no problem. He thinks he will try. The main character leaves and thinks about new monsters, whether he can fight them. However, now there is no other way to earn money. He remembers all the monsters he has met. He lists a giant monkey, great spirits of darkness, a 2-meter pack of wolves, and he went through all this, risking his life. He was blown up in the middle of a huge forest. Kurosei Hikaru wonders what kind of monsters there might be in the maze. He runs into some girl and asks for forgiveness. The girl grabs him right away and says with a smile that he's a pretty cute guy. She thinks he's cute, and she wonders if his character is cute or not. Kurosei Hikaru wonders what kind of woman she is. He asks her who she is. He doesn't understand a bit. The woman whispers to him that she's cheap, it's her first time, so she won't charge much. The main character blushes and asks, what is the first time? Cheap? What is she carrying? The girl calls him brother and says he's loud. She puts his palm on her and says that 2 silver coins and she will belong to him. She asks if he agrees. He freezes in shock, the girl asks, so she sees that he is shy. Kurosei Hikaru is unable to answer her. She asks if that's what he wants, and she laughs and calls him cute. Suddenly, he hears some kind of pealing laughter. He holds his head up. Going back to the 10th day of our stay, we see Kurose Hikaru going out into the field with dirty clothes and abrasions and wounds. He thinks he never got out of the woods. Kurose Hikaru begins to be congratulated by the system because he took first place among the audience. He won the crown first place. As the winner, he is awarded 3 points. He sees that he has 1 billion viewers. He is told that from today he can receive messages from Earth. He can add a mailbox to the home screen. He thinks maybe it's because he went through a fierce battle in the forest. The main character sees that he can view his viewers and their support here. He wonders if there is any information about Nanami. Kurose reads messages that wish him dead. They say that he enjoys the other world by killing other creatures. They call him a bad person, saying that he killed Nanami to get into this world. They tell him that he killed all his childhood friends. His teeth are gritting, and his lips are trembling at the thought that Nanami is dead. He falls to the ground and says, "Is she really dead? Why didn't she move here too?" He tells himself that everything is wrong. They ask him how he feels now, because he killed his childhood friend. It's hard. It's probably hard to stop from the thirst to kill. There's no forgiveness for him. The main character screams and sobs, not understanding why all this is for him. He starts screaming that he couldn't have killed Nanami. She's his friend. He and Nanami were killed, but he somehow came to this world. His arms drop, and he's breathing heavily. He thinks that from the very beginning, everything did not go as it should have been. Did he do something wrong that God decided to do this to him? Returning to the present, the woman who caught him on the street asks if everything is okay with him. He thinks to himself that he is clearly being bullied. The audience leaves feedback that he's hooked up with a girl. He's still vile and dirty. Just let them look at his face, how he blushed. He pushes the woman, asking her to let go. She falls to the ground. The main character looks at her and freezes, after which he apologizes and runs away from her. The woman shouts after him. She doesn't ask for much, besides she's never had this. He runs away, stops, and breathes heavily. He keeps thinking that he's not ready for this yet, because he was just a high school student. Now he has no one, no family, not even his childhood best friend. He falls to his knees, clutches his clothes, and begins to sob silently. The tears don't stop. He wipes them with his hands. He walks through the city and finally comes to that very maze. The architecture is not the best. They look like tentacles. There are knights in armor standing in front of the entrance, and a lot of other people who are talking to each other in companies. They communicate, one says, as expected. The second floor is not so simple. It's nice to have so many awards, and there are a lot of items. Another asks if he wants to restore the balance in the guild. Kurose Hikaru says that this is the great labyrinth of Meltia. This maze, in his opinion, is like a huge soul stone. I won't exaggerate if I say that he conveys tremendous spiritual power. He looks at the entrance, realizes that nothing is visible. It's so frightening for him. The main character tells himself that he needs to calm down first, although he feels her calling him to her. He uses a gloomy fog and says it would be a bit troublesome if someone tried to stop him. He passes by girls who say that it's as expected from a certain Rairea. They wonder if he can get through. At this time, Kurose Hikaru thinks that only darkness will erase his existence. The main character is sure that no one will see or notice him. He passes by one blonde and thinks she's so beautiful. He tells himself that it's better not to pay attention now. The blonde says she shouldn't let her guard down while she's training. The girls say she's in their repertoire. This girl looks after Hikara and asks the girls who it is. They don't understand what she's talking about. There's no one here. This girl asks if it's really true that she's the only one who sees him. He enters the maze and realizes that he is alone. He wonders what kind of monsters might be here. The main character goes down the stairs and thinks that it's better not to rush. Kurose comes to the first floor, Maifu Street. He sees abandoned houses and is surprised by the scale of the city. He is shocked by such a great maze of Meltia. He walks through the city and says that you can immediately notice that the space itself is filled with spiritual power. He does not feel any signs of people at all, such a strange place. Kurose goes and says that this city is artificial. He sees that these houses are all abandoned. He touches the walls. The main character sits down and tells himself to calm down. This maze is not so simple. It's like he's in a closed space. He doesn't feel anything at all. There are no living beings. He calls up the menu. It appears. Kurose Hikaru thinks that more information can be obtained from here. Kurose sees 42 million people watching him in real time, with a total of 6 billion views. He sees that there are fewer viewers in real time. When there are a lot of viewers, crystals are given as a bonus. These crystals can be exchanged for various types of items. Although the audience doesn't like it, they continue to follow him. The main character sighs from his situation. More than 50 migrants who came here died in one day. He is sure that all the inhabitants of the earth wish him a speedy death. Suddenly, he hears some sounds. He turns towards the sound, and all the shock of the current situation is reflected on his face. He sees a skeleton walking towards him. Kurosei immediately wonders if he can get the soul stone by defeating it. He immediately uses the dark mist. Even in spiritual resources, there is a rank. Each technique has its own level, and each time the level reaches 100, the skill increases. His current dark mist rank is 4. At maximum power, the radius is 10 meters, so there's no way to dodge. This technique only blocks vision, but it lets sound and smell through. The skeleton does not see him and passes by. He thinks that first of all he needs to find out what he is guided by. Is the darkness really not a hindrance to him? He doesn't understand anything, so he definitely won't earn anything. Kurosei Hikaru realizes that the skeleton has not noticed him. He's doubtful, or he's just trying to find him. He doesn't understand anything. The main character looks at him attentively. The skeleton stops, and his whole body begins to tremble. Then the man turns his head back to him. According to Kurosei Hikaru's theory, his fog managed to block his field of vision. He looks at him in shock. Kurosei begins to analyze that his opponent is an armless skeleton, and he is also very slow. He pulls out his knife. The main character runs at the skeleton using the dark mist of darkness. The skeleton turns towards him. Kurosei thinks that if he can close the distance, great. He understands that the skeleton has noticed him. He stabs him. The skeleton evaporates, leaving a small stone in its place. Kurosei Hikaru realizes that he has turned into a spirit stone. The main character deactivates his skill and wonders if it's really that easy to defeat him. Suddenly, he hears a voice asking if he's still alive. Kurosei says that at this rate he will be able to earn extra money. A voice asks him if he killed Nanami the same way. He freezes abruptly and then begins to breathe heavily. He falls and coughs while holding his sword tightly. He keeps getting questions about whether he's going to fight, so he likes another world and what other skills he's learned to control. They laugh, saying that he defeated a decrepit skeleton and rejoices. It would be better if he was crushed by a terrible monster. The main character covers his mouth with his palm and starts running using his dark spirit. He can't see where he's running. He thinks that he needs to fight and get as many spirit stones as possible. He doesn't need to think about anything. He doesn't want anyone else to see it. He asks himself to forget and not listen to anyone. The main character sobs and continues to run, thinking that even now he just wants to disappear. He runs through an abandoned city. There is no one there. In the real world, people look at their phones and say that someone forgot to send a message. Someone finds it depressing and uninteresting, too boring. Someone writes to Kurosei Hikaru that if he wants to become cool, then let him die. Someone has already repeated several times that Kurosei Hikaru is a criminal. Even now, investigations are still ongoing, because the criminal has not been caught, and he is Kurosei Hikaru, who was able to escape. Someone writes that there are no witnesses. The other replies that even so, everyone knows that Kurosei Hikaru is a criminal. Even when he read all the letters, let them look at his face, he turned himself in. The girl is lying in the bathtub and also reads the messages. It seems to her that he doesn't care about their messages because he is so calm. Someone is enthusiastically typing that he did not kill Nanami. This is his opinion. Someone asks if he's going to stay alive and unpunished after all this, if they're really going to justify Kurosei Hikaru. Kurosei Hikaru receives messages that he did not kill Nanami's sister because she is like a family to them. Some girl asks another girl if she really decided to write after all. In the world of the game, Kurosei Hikaru is still walking along the dark street of an abandoned city. The sounds have subsided. He says it's so dark here that you can't get through without night vision skills. He eventually reaches the second floor, which is called the Dark Underground Prison. The main character falls to the ground exhausted. He hears sounds, it's goblins, with clubs coming down this corridor. He uses his darkness skill and is disappointed to think that they are monsters again. The goblins laugh, talk, and walk past Kurosei Hikaru. In some room, something glows in the armor. Kurosei Hikaru approaches and wonders if this is a spiritual stone. He picks up the stone and says that there is nothing left of the skeleton. It feels like it was not real. As soon as he takes the stone, the skeleton and armor disappear into the darkness. The main character says that, at least, this is his only chance to earn money. He goes and hears other people's words. Kurosei stops and watches the painting. The grown-up guys yell at the little one that she should follow them faster, for which they pay her in general. The girl, lowering her head, apologizes to them and says that she injured her leg. They shout that it's because she doesn't wear shoes. They call her a useless adventurer. One of the three leaves and says she'd better keep up now. The girl obeys and says that it's better for them not to worry about her. They are walking, followed by a beastman, who are outraged that they will definitely not get out of here at this pace, and why should they take a child into the team at all, although it can be used as bait. The girl walks with her cat paws and asks in a trembling voice to wait. She can't keep up with them. She stumbles and falls. The girl starts crying. Kurosei Hikaru watches and thinks that they just left her like that. The main character walks confidently because he can't just walk by. He pulls out his regenerating potion for 5 crystals and puts this potion next to her while she cries. Kurosei Hikaru thinks that he would hardly have helped at all, but now the situation is completely different. He tells her to use it, and she looks around in panic. She looks up and asks who is here. The girl picks up the bottle and sees that it is a regeneration potion. She thanks him. The girl opens the potion and wonders if she can use it. Kurosei Hikaru is watching and thinks that the potion should help her. She pours the potion on her leg. Kurosei Hikaru sees that the blood has stopped a little. The girl says that the wound has healed. The main character smiles and says that it seems to have worked. The girl awkwardly says that the potion is of low rank. Even so, it must be very expensive. Kurosei Hikaru replies that it's not a pity to spend money on such a thing. She hears his voice and says that, in her opinion, she needs to repay something. She doesn't even know who helped her and who to help her in return. He takes her by the hand and offers to get out of here first. She goes and says how dark it is. They come to the first floor. The main character asks her why her feet were injured. She replies that it is because she walks without shoes, and when she went up to the second floor, she rubbed them on sharp stones. Kurosei Hikaru thinks he should have known better. He asks if she will tell him more about the dungeon. She says she'll tell you what she can. She asks if he's really an adventurer. This is the first time she's seen a potion being summoned so easily. The main character asks if this is a rarity. She replies that just a low-ranking adventurer would not be able to summon him so easily. She can't see anything because of the darkness. Kurosei thinks it means that few people know about his technique, and that's a good thing. She remembers and begins to talk about the maze. There are great spirits that are located at a certain distance, and because of this, there is a deformation in the center of the dungeon. Kurosei Hikaru asks if this means that there are great spirits in this dungeon. She replies that it is, and that there are also minor spirits, the great spirits of fire, water, and air. She says her goal is to save up money and sign a contract with the Great Spirit. He is surprised that it is possible to conclude an agreement with them. He asks what happens to the monsters that can be killed here. The girl replies that those who are killed become spiritual stones. These are monsters that were previously formed by spiritual power. The lower the dungeon level, the stronger the monsters, so the spiritual power in the maze is constantly changing. She says that if you think about it, she's asking you to tell her your adventurer rank. He replies that it's a secret he shouldn't trust anyone here except himself. She says she could help him in some way. The girl tells him that if someone finds a treasure, never take it away. He freezes in place. He asks what kind of treasure it is. Is it really like a chest? She says that it is. The treasures will be given to the adventurer who found them. He asks who gives them away. She replies that this is Shinju, the divine beast Lilamuth. Few people have actually seen the beast, but it is well known among travelers. He says that he has never seen treasures, and she replies that they are often not found in the maze, but they can often be seen from the outside. Kurosei Hikaru thinks it's good if they're easy to see. They walk up the stairs and out into the street from the maze. He leaves her, says goodbye, and tells her to be careful. She asks him to stand. The main character stops and asks what happened. Is there really anything else she wants to tell? She blushes and says that her name is Grapefruit. She is a feline animal. She asks if he will tell her his name. He is silent, turns his head and says that he does not think that this is necessary. It is unlikely that they will meet again, and in general, it is better for her not to tell anyone about their meeting. The grapefruit stays where it is, watching him go, then wipes his tears with his paws and says that they will see each other. Kurosei Hikaru lies on her bed and thinks about Grapefruit's feline beast. The audience shouldn't have noticed her, so it's okay. He thinks she seemed kind enough to him, but they shouldn't see each other anymore. He closes his eyes. After a while, he washes his face, pulls on his uniform, and comes to the master, to whom he handed over all the crystals. The master asks in surprise if he really came after all. Kurose Hikaru says that he brought quite a lot of things for sale today. He throws off everything he's found and asks what he's going to say. The master says that leather armor and gloves are quite cheap, but popular among beginners. He can give 10 silver coins. Kurose takes the coins and says it's great. He thinks it's cheaper than he expected, but it's enough to live on for now. Kurose Hikaru pulls out a stone and asks if he could take another look. The man examines it and says that it is a small spiritual stone. He asks if it's really a stone that fell from the skeleton. Kurose replies that it seems the other adventurers left him. He apologizes and says he doesn't know what to do about it. The master says it's okay, if he wants to, he can buy it. The hero asks in surprise if he is worth anything. The master replies that, of course, even he alone is worth some money, because he told him last time that you can make good money on this. The main thing is to bring more spiritual stones. He says he will pay a lot then. Kurose Hikaru asks if he can ask how he coped with being judged by a crowd of strangers. He laughs and asks if he's really asking him for advice. Honestly, strangers are strangers. He doesn't think it's worth worrying about the opinions of people who don't really know him. The master asks if his question has anything to do with the passage of the maze. He replies that he is partially bound, and then asks how strong you need to be to complete the entire maze. He thinks about it, and then replies that he doesn't even know what kind of monster he needs to be for this. Kurose Hikaru thinks about his words. They say goodbye. The master asks him to come back. He comes to the maze again. He comes in and thinks that for now, in order to earn money, he will look for equipment and spiritual stones. He doesn't care what the audience thinks of him. He understands that this is all he can do right now. He walks in a dark room and thinks that there are quite a lot of corpses on the second floor. It is much darker here than on the first floor, and it is also easier to get lost. In addition, there are often packs of strong monsters. There are all conditions for death and careless adventurers. The main character walks by and says that it's very dirty here. It's hard to notice it without night vision skills. He picks up something and sees that it is a sword fragment. He hears voices to keep his eyes on the ground. Another says it's good that they finished quickly today. The third suggests going home early and relaxing. Kurose Hikaru realizes that they are adventurers. One of them asks if they have heard someone's voice here. The other one says no, because it's just them here. They pass by. One eats something and says it's so delicious. The other asks why he's interrupting his appetite. They'll go eat when they get out of the dungeon. The guy throws out a barbecue stick. Kurose Hikaru starts to get annoyed. The three of them leave, reasoning that what they will eat depends on how much they have earned today. Kurose Hikaru thinks it's all because of people like them. He says out loud that it's annoying, and then he starts cleaning the rooms of all dirt and debris. He decides to put things in order here, puts everything in one pile. The main character has cleaned the whole room, after which he sits down tired, regaining his breath. He wonders how much garbage there is, no end in sight. It seems to him that this will take a long time. He sees a mountain of garbage, and Kurose Hikaru says that, in his opinion, everything needs to be moved to a separate room. The main character says that he is beginning to better understand the structure of the second floor. It is slightly larger than the first. He decides that he will return to cleaning, otherwise he will not have time. He hears someone's voice saying that everything is fine. He recognizes that voice. Kurose sees that it is a grapefruit with other adventurers. One of them says that he has packed all his things. Everything is ready. The head tells Grapefruit that the third floor is much more dangerous, so she should be careful. The main character realizes that they are going to the third floor. One says that the sword is in excellent condition. The other strokes his stomach and says that he has eaten well, so he is ready for battle. Grapefruit tells everyone to follow her. Kurose Hikaru smiles, thinking that she seems to be fine. The girl tells everyone to go ahead. The man shouts that they rely on her. Kurose Hikaru wishes them good luck. However, he sees that they also left garbage. He is indignant about what is wrong. At this time, in the real world, people are discussing that it seems to be Kurose Hikaru's sister. Someone says that Kurose Hikaru has never admitted guilt in that murder. She answers the questions. She is asked questions, however, that the cause of Nanami's death was stab wounds. She confidently replies that it is true, the murder weapon has not yet been found. She is asked if she considers her brother a criminal. There they ask another question. Doesn't she find it strange that there was no murder weapon at the crime scene, but Kurose Hikaru moved right away? The sister says that in the end, she would like to add that she is more than sure that her brother is not a criminal. In the morning, everyone is discussing whether they have seen yesterday's issue. One of them asks if Hikaru is with Kurose's sister. The third one immediately answers what he saw. The guy says that all the evidence is circumstantial. He did not believe from the very beginning that Kurose Hikaru was the killer. Another person writes, "What's wrong with them, Kurose? Hikaru was with Nanami that day. It's obvious that he killed her." Another says that he always tries so hard to prove his guilt that it's even suspicious. That student decides to write a comment in support of Kurose Hikaru. The second one asks him if he really thinks he's reading them. One says that Kurose Hikaru has been hiding in the shadows for quite some time. He immediately asks, since when did they start protecting him? Someone says to watch the full episode with the main character's sister. They think she's really amazing. She answered all the questions, and even in different languages. Someone is writing to those who defend Kurose Hikaru, asking if there is any evidence. Then they tell him to go and watch the video. Almost no one considers Kurose Hikaru a murderer anymore. Another girl comes up and says, "It's amazing, isn't it? The course of the game has now been completely changed." The guy says he would like Kurose Hikaru to know that he is supported now. They wonder what Kurose Hikaru is doing there, by the way. The second one replies that he doesn't know because he's definitely not visible. It's too dark. The third one says he's wandering around the maze again. The little sister goes to Salika, another sister of Kurose Hikaru, and says congratulations that the comments against her brother have become much less. She goes up to Celica and says that the video worked. She comes in and sees her sister angry. She shouts to the girl who offered her services to Kurose Hikaru, "What is she doing?" My sister asks if Celica is revisiting this moment again. Salika screams that she will never forgive her for this. Let her get her dirty hands off Kurose Hikaru. At this time, Kurose Hikaru brought cleanliness and order to the maze. All the walls are shiny, not a single speck of dust and debris on the floor. He looks around and wonders what he's doing. He just wanted to clean up a bit, and it all turned into a general cleaning. Kurose Hikaru says he found quite a lot of equipment. He thinks he can sell it now. He sees that he has more than 1,000 messages, and they give him a crystal for being watched by 100 million people every day. Kurose Hikaru says that the crystal is good, but he doesn't understand why there were so many viewers. Suddenly, he sees something sparkling, and a huge seal begins to shine on the wall. It's a door with lots of light patterns on it. Kurose Hikaru wonders where she came from. As far as he knows, she shouldn't be here. He asks, so what happened here? He thinks he needs to come in. He calls up the menu, reasoning that he will try to identify the door as an object, because, in theory, it is possible it will not be worse. The system tells him that the crystal was used to evaluate the item. He is told that this is the door to the treasury. The divine beast Lilymuff can bestow upon the adventurer he likes. Only the real recipient of the gift can enter it. He recalls Grapefruit saying that few people have actually seen the beast, but it is well known among travelers. He realizes that she was talking about it. He takes a step and opens the door. The main character finds himself in a room where there is a box with a large ball in front of him. He picks it up and asks if it's really some kind of glass ball. So far, nothing unusual. Maybe it will show itself when he comes out of the maze. He thinks that he can be sold as a last resort, probably because he was so grateful for the cleaning. He comes out and gives thanks for the gift of the divine beast. Suddenly, he hears screams and does not understand what it is. Someone is shouting to run faster while there is a chance. He sees girls running from somewhere. One of the girls is fighting and tells the refray master to run away. She needs to leave. The girl tells the others that she will distract him. Kurose Hikaru looks at her and remembers the girl who stood at the entrance to the maze. Terrible sounds are made by the monster. Sharp swords collide with each other. Kurose Hikaru runs towards them. The girl again tells the refray master how she will go alone against the mantis. She replies, "Is she really suggesting retreating? No, she's not going to do that." Refria fights with the mantis, who stands calmly and deflects her blows. The girl shouts to her team to escape quickly. The girls stand wounded on the sidelines and don't know what to do. The whole floor starts to crack from the battle of the praying mantis with Refria. The girl with the injured arm asks how it is. How can they leave her like that? Refria continues to fight confidently. Refria continues to swing her sword. She takes a breath due to the fact that they are not running away, but they are not helping. She orders them to run for help. and the girls immediately obey and shout that they will definitely come back to help her. Refria wipes the sweat off herself and says she relies on them. As they run away, she smiles slyly. Kurose Hikaru looks at her. He notices that Refria turns her head, and at that moment the mantis swings at her. Refria easily deflects his blow. Kurose Hikaru looks on in surprise. Refria points his sword at the monster and offers to dance until they escape safely. She holds her sword tightly. She pushes off the ground and with great pressure goes to the monster with a weapon. He reflects her blow. She immediately strikes the next one. They stand for a long time, crossing their swords in front of them. The mantis pushes harder, and Refria steps back. She takes a small break per second and jumps back to attack the monster. The mantis deflects the blow and attacks the girl repeatedly. She easily holds on. The fight continues. Kurose Hikaru watches and thinks how beautiful she is. He freezes, watching her as she fights the monster. He thinks that in the gray walls of the labyrinth, where darkness and death rule, only she shone dazzlingly in all her splendor. Then Refria's weapon flies away from her, and the monster gets close to her to make the final blow. Kurose Hikaru realizes that if he doesn't do anything, Refria humbly closes his eyes, waiting for death. Then the main character takes a step towards them. He himself looks like a monster in the shadows. The mantis's claw is a couple of centimeters away from Refria's face. Kurose Hikaru holds out his hand, which the monster himself notices. Kurose Hikaru uses shadow binding. The shadows from under the mantis begin to move without the main body. The shadow lines bind the monster and prevent it from moving. Refria looks at the shadow in surprise. Kurose Hikaru sees that the dark spirits have worked on him. Then how can he do that? He summons night moths. Many butterflies fly in a whirlwind from Kurose Hikaru. He orders them to become his prey. As soon as they fly towards the monster and attack from all sides, his eyes focus on Kurose Hikaru himself. He thinks it's great. He looks here. Kurose Hikaru lets the shadow runner go around. The monster starts watching the shadow. Kurose Hikaru is glad that he was distracted. He realizes that he needs to attack right now, and he pulls out his knife. Then he activates his shadow mist. Here, the monster is terrified, and Refria is also scared because she can't see anything. Kurose Hikaru approaches the monster from behind. He drives a knife into the mantis's back. The monster's body disappears into the light. Refria continues to sit and watch. The mantis monster's body transforms into the Chaos Spirit Stone Mantis. Kurose Hikaru is surprised that he was able to defeat this monster alone. He looks at his palm and begins to think maybe he will make a worthy adventurer. The main character begins to think that her name is Master Refria. She was at the entrance to the maze that day. He just goes into the shadows with the idea that he doesn't want to get involved anymore. With such skills, it won't be difficult for her to get out of here. Here, Refria apologizes and asks to wait. She stares at him directly, and Kurose Hikaru stares at her in surprise. Refria asks who is there. She asks to give at least her name. Kurose Hikaru replies that no one. He asks if she can come back on her own. Kurose Hikaru himself thinks that the audience is actively following them, and such a beauty attracts even more attention. Refria blushes and replies that no, she doesn't think so. Most likely she won't be able to. It's obvious that she's faking it. Kurose Hikaru asks if she can't do it with that kind of fighting power. She replies that, to tell the truth, she is poorly oriented in space. Kurose Hikaru looks at her for a long time and then sighs, saying, "Well, what can I do with her?" He holds out his hand to her and says that he will take her to the stairs to the first floor. Refria looks at her for a long time and then lowers her eyes with red cheeks and a sly smile on her face. They arrive, and Kurose Hikaru informs them about this and asks if she understood that she should not tell anyone that she saw him. He says goodbye to her and tells her not to make mistakes anymore. She apologizes again and asks if he can tell her his name after all. He replies that he has already said no. He tells her to forget about him. She sadly lowers her eyes, looks up again, and smiles, the same sly smile. She refuses to do so and applies light. The ball of light in her palm lights up right in front of him. Kurose Hikaru becomes visible. His shadow disappears. He does not understand what is happening. The main character asks the girl what it is, while his face is very surprised. Refria says with a smile that it worked. She keeps shining and says in a gentle voice that if they broke up like this, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Kurose Hikaru hides from such a bright light. He asks if it's really a light ball he can barely see. Refria explains that this is light. the magic of the spirits of light. She believes that this is a stupid skill. It only illuminates everything around. She grabs his hands. She says that, however, he came in handy today. He just helped her out. She has red cheeks and a bright smile, as if the light comes from her smile. She asks him again if he can tell her his name. Kurosei Hikaru starts talking, but he won't say how much he can. He pulls away from her, letting go of her hands. He asks what's wrong with her, why she's acting like this. She says with embarrassment that if she hadn't done that, she wouldn't have recognized his face either, and he fumbles with his fingers. She says he saved her life, and she couldn't even thank him enough. Kurosei Hikaru looks at her in surprise. The main character begins to think that she has only one headache, where Frey apologizes for being so rude to him. She bows and says that she is a disciple of the Knights of the Temple of Light, Freya Ashbird. The motto of their family is to always be grateful for the kindness shown. He adds that soon she will certainly thank him for her rescue. Freya winks at him and asks if he will tell her his name when he arrives immediately. She just walks away from him and goes up the stairs. Kurosei Hikaru remains in place in shock with his mouth open. In the evening, in his room, in complete silence, Kurosei Hikaru sits on his blood with his head down. He's terrified of being seen, but he didn't want to be spotted by the audience, and the news spread about him here, and that he uses the magic of dark spirits. The main character sits in complete silence again, and then begins to think, what's the use of worrying now? All that remains is to believe in her. He gets out of bed and says out loud that he has to live even more hidden now than he did before. Kurosei pushes back his chair, summons a shadow bag, and puts his hand in it. He takes out that ball from the divine beast. It's a treasure trove from the treasure trove. He thinks that outside of the maze, it should sort of return to its original form. Suddenly, the ball begins to dissolve and to form. Kurosei Hikaru watches the process in surprise. This ball turns into a powerful glove that looks heavy and durable. It's all black. Kurosei Hikaru recognizes this glove. He says it's so expensive that he couldn't afford one. He thanks me for getting the glove. He reasons out loud what the beast said. The treasure is given to the adventurer who found it. He seems to understand why it should not be appropriated by another. The main character thinks it's a rare thing. He picks it up and decides to check it out. He spends 1 crystal to evaluate the item. He is told that it is the glove of the Dark Knight, the gift of the divine beast, which is made of leather and a special metal that does not reflect light. It does not clank on impact and is very light, great for concealed applications. He puts on a glove and realizes that it doesn't make a sound. The main character clenches and unclenches his fingers. He is glad that the glove fits perfectly. Kurosei lies down on the bed again with this glove and admires it. He says out loud that it was his miscalculation that Freya was able to see him, but there are no social media or photos in this world. He says he took down a monster that would otherwise have killed her. Kurosei realizes now that he has done enough. The main character gets up the next morning and immediately opens the menu. He sees that the number of viewers in real time is equal to 83 million people. Kurosei thought that because of the incident with Freya, the audience would increase, but he worried in vain. They probably found the migrant more attractive. Hakiru looks out the window and thinks about an unfamiliar country, an unfamiliar world where you have to fight monsters to live. He stares resolutely in front of him and realizes that this is the only place he can live. Now he wants to become at least a little bit stronger. The main character prepares weapons, standing against the wall near the maze. He says that if you fight with a dagger, it's better on the 2nd floor. He gets out and goes to the maze, and Freya is standing at the entrance, as if waiting for him on purpose and with a bold smile on her face. Kurosei Hikaru recognizes him immediately. She stares at him. The main character hides behind the wall again and thinks, is she really waiting for him? He doesn't believe it. Is she really that conscious? He wonders if he should ask her if she's talked about him. He sighs and thinks that he should forget about him. He uses shadow mist. The main character walks past her. She stands with a smile. Kurosei Hikaru walks on. Freya says thoughtfully that it doesn't seem to be there. He walks down a dark corridor and waves his sword. He says he's not good with a sword. He thinks it's worth practicing on at least one monster first. The main character keeps waving them around and saying that he weighs a kilogram, but he lacks the strength and speed to fight. He wonders how Freya manages to swing such a huge sword with ease. He can barely handle this dagger. The main character walks on and breathes heavily from practice. He decides to start with the weakest monster. He sees some monsters around the corner. He understands that these goblins are the weakest on the 2nd floor. There are two of them. He thinks it's hard to form a group, but it's so easy to hunt for the rest. The main character thinks that dark fog is not a panacea, as it allows sounds and smells to pass through. He activates the powers. He thinks that, in addition, there are two people against him. He will defeat one, and the second one will immediately notice that the magic of dark spirits must be used wisely. The main character decides to try as before. Kurosei uses the shadow mist to the maximum. He sees that the goblins are panicking and frantically looking around, which is great, now they can't see anything. The main character approaches them from behind and stabs one in the neck with a sword. He thinks that the first one has gone, while the second one is panicking even more. If he noticed him, he did not show it. Kurosei abruptly flies up to the second enemy and also attacks him from behind with his sword. Then he realizes that he defeated them using only his dark fog. The main character wonders if even goblins who can move in a dark maze are powerless in the dark, or even a ray of light cannot penetrate. He begins to realize that he will be able to fight. Yesterday's battle was not an accident, as he thinks. The main character goes on and says out loud that he shouldn't be arrogant. Goblins are fine, but if anything happens, the wound can be fatal. He decides that he will move forward slowly, because he has plenty of time. Kurosei is completely out of the maze. The main character says that there are 20 transparent and 4-colored spiritual stones, which should be enough for housing and household expenses. He looks around and realizes, as he thought, that Refreya did not stay the night, finished her business, and went home. Kurosei sighs and thinks that he will be on his guard with her for now. He decides to go home as soon as possible before it gets light. He turns around to head back home as his gaze catches on the person next to him. It's Refreya who's coming out to him. Refreya is walking straight towards him. He sees her and immediately runs to hide. He goes around the corner and watches her. The main character looks after her and thinks that they don't seem to have noticed him. He thinks reproachfully that she's back at the entrance to the maze. She approaches the entrance of the maze and confidently declares that she will find it today. The Refreya stays there in place. Kurosei Hikaru says that she works day after day. She doesn't know what kind of business he has. He stands by the water and scoops liquid with his palm. The main character recalls that they say that because of the spirits of the water here is very tasty. He takes off his clothes and decides to wash up after the fight. A man approaches him and asks if he's really back. It's the innkeeper. Kurosei Hikaru recognizes him. The man says that if he swims like this every day, he'll get cold. Why doesn't he go to the sauna, at least sometimes? He thinks about it. The main character asks if it's really possible at such an early hour. He replies that it is possible, plus she works around the clock. He thinks to himself that a sauna is good, but he doubts that it would work around the clock. Kurosei gets up and reflects that since he decided to live in this world, it wasn't. He says he has a question, and the owner asks what it is. He asks him what kind of sauna it is, where they bathe or steam, what should he wash with, whether there are towels there, whether they serve coffee with milk. He is surprised by his questions and asks everyone not to ask at once. Kurosei Hikaru buys a tub, towel, soap, and shampoo for 6 crystals. He approaches the building and realizes that there is a sauna. He comes in and thinks, although all the migrants are scattered around the world, any of them may well go to the sauna too. The main character asks to give him an entrance for one. The girl takes 15 coppers from him. He holds out the coins and remembers what the innkeeper told him. By the power of the great spirit of water, the purest water is supplied to this public bath, and it is heated by the power of the great spirit of fire. He packs up his things and says he's lucky they're working right now. He enters the public part. The main character sees and is surprised, thinking that it looks like a giant bathroom. There are few people there. One of them goes out. He lathers his hair, rubs his whole body, rinses off all the soap and shampoo, and then sinks into hot water. Kurosei says that you get pleasure from something that chills to the bone. He exhales and calms down. He reflects that for the first time in all his time here, he can finally soak in hot water. Before, when he bathed every day, he did not feel grateful, as he does now. Suddenly, the main character notices tears pouring from his eyes. He wipes his tears with his fingers and wonders why he is crying. He washes his face with this hot water and thinks, lifting his head, that the audience will not notice these tears. Others come into the sauna. Kurosei sighs and says that he is tired and that the bath in the morning is the best. The other one tells the first one to rinse well and go into the water. One asks the other how he feels. He is informed that such a large bathhouse is the only one in the area. They enter the water and moan with pleasure. One blonde guy says that in another world he would have taken a quick shower, but a sauna is something, and why didn't he know about it before? Kurose Hikaru listens to their conversation and wonders if there are any souls in this world. One of them asks Alex what a shower is, and Alex replies that it's like swimming in hot rain. One man laughs at the fact that Alex is talking about another world. He says that, as always, he will say something stupid. The main character immediately reacts to the phrase about another world. Alex tells them and asks with shock if they don't believe his words still. He, by the way, was a diligent student before he came to this world. The man asks what the student is. Is it really something cool? He hears Alex saying that it's in another world. He was just talking about him. Kurose Hikaru immediately wonders if there are migrants in this city too. Kurose Hikaru reflects that if he continues to talk like this, it may affect him. Moreover, the viewers who are watching him now may discover him. He gets up and decides to leave here. At this point, the guys start to wonder and discuss whether that girl really came today. The second one asks if he's talking about the one who stood at the entrance to the maze. They think she's a real beauty. They turn to Alex and ask, after all, he talked to her, how did it go? Alexa replies that she said she was waiting for a friend, invited her to dinner, but he was rejected. Alex's friends ask if he's serious. One claims that he was hitting on her, the other is also not happy about it. Alexa asks, what's the big deal? Inviting a beauty is a common thing. Kurose Hikaru turns around abruptly. Kurose Hikaru opens the door and walks away from them. At this time, one guy opens the menu because a new message has arrived. He decides to check what's in there. He says out loud that the black-haired guy there is Kurose Hikaru. All three of them look at him. Kurose Hikaru looks back at them. The main character sees Alex staring at them steadily. Kurose Hikaru's hand starts to tremble with excitement. Alex's friends ask him if he really knows him, and another one says he hasn't seen him before. The main character is trembling and terrified. Alexa gets up and calls him by name. He asks if he is Kurose Hikaru, a Chinese. He wonders in shock what it is. Doesn't he know about him and Nanami? When he came out of the forest, he was the first in the audience rating. He thought that since he was a migrant, he knew about him. The hero hesitantly replies to Alex that he is Japanese. Alex laughs and says it's the first time he's met a migrant. He introduces himself as Jack Alexander Fox, originally from Ontario, Canada. He smiles, holds out his hand, and says that everyone calls him Alex. Kurose Hikaru answers uncertainly, that's how it is. Alexa begins to tell me that suddenly being in another world turned out to be scary, like being in a movie. Kurose Hikaru just agrees with him. Alex keeps saying that he thought he could do it easily, but in reality, it's hard alone, because his friends told him about the guild and their messages, and that's the only way he survives. He wonders suspiciously if he's up to something, but he doesn't answer him. Alex wonders again if he's really alone. Kurose Hikaru answers ambiguously that yes. Alex replies that he understands and calls the Japanese a resilient people. He says that many of his friends want to visit Japan, and he asks if they have a lot of anime and manga there. Kurose Hikaru again says nothing, agrees dryly. Alex falls silent and looks at the main character. He puts his hand on Kurose Hikaru's shoulder and asks with concern what is wrong with him. Is he feeling bad? He replies heavily that everything is fine. He thinks to himself that if you add up his viewers and Alex, you'll get millions. He's sure that all the viewers are amused by their meeting. Those guys get up with Alex and ask him if this is really his brother. They've memorized his name, they're clarifying, but this guy is really from another world. Alex replies resentfully that he told them it was like that. One of them demands that he wants to hear it from Kurose Hikaru. Kurose Hikaru apologizes and says he has things to do, so he suggests we talk about it later. Alexa immediately agrees and apologizes for slowing him down. He was so happy that he found someone to chat with about Earth. Kurose Hikaru is silent again and doesn't say anything. Alex says with a warm smile that he comes here from time to time. He suggests he talk to him next time. Kurose Hikaru briefly agrees and disappears from sight in a split second. After a while, he lies back on his bed and wonders if Alex knows for sure that he is a suspect in the murder of his childhood friend, and despite this, he communicated with him. Kurose Hikaru remembers Alex's facial expressions and gestures. The main character believes that Alexa talked to him as if nothing had happened. They could become friends, in his opinion. Kurose turns on his side and thinks out loud that he should have spoken more freely. He gets up abruptly, yells at the whole street, and berates himself for his behavior. Someone is actively typing on the keyboard. The man folds his arms over his chest and says that Kurosei worries unnecessarily about every occasion. He wonders if he's okay. Next to him, the man says that his sisters are worried about him too. There are user comments that the unexpected meeting with Alex was a bit boring, that Hikaru Kurosei got out quickly, that the public bath looked tempting. This city is just a fairy tale. The food looks delicious, and there is even a dungeon. The man pulls a glass out of the vending machine and says that if he had a proper conversation with Alex, he would have learned more about the guild. The second one says that Hikaru is being deceived on the black market. They take him for half the price. The first one hands the jar to the second one and says that it is without unnecessary questions, and this is good for them. Another one takes a glass of drink and asks if Alexa really didn't know about Hikaru Kurosei. The first one looks at his phone and says that 82 messages were sent to Hikaru Kurosei's account. 77 asked him for help. The second one drinks a drink and says that it means the audience wants to support Hikaru Kurosei. He stops drinking, looks up and says with reasoning that it turns out that even knowing about him, he does not consider him a murderer. The first dark-haired man, still looking at the phone, says that Alex is not his enemy. He wants to convey this to him. The second one joins in and says that his dark fog is also extremely strong. The skill that allows you to constantly use spirit magic surpasses everything else, all because during the movement, the skill Spirit Power cost 30 points. They're all discussing that it's 10 times more than other people can use right now. The second one says that since it's a level system, Hikaru Kurosei is getting stronger fast. The dark-haired man says that his sister's live broadcast was exciting. The blonde man smiles and says that he became a real fan of hers after that issue about Hikaru Kurosei's innocence. The dark-haired man says defiantly that although Karen is more popular online, the blonde understands him and asks, he's also for Celica. One says she's very pretty and shines like a goddess. The other agrees and says she doesn't look like a high school student at all. At this time, Karen and Celica are standing in front of the screen and looking at it with great interest and condemnation. They see Refrae Ashbird and don't understand what kind of girl she is. They wonder if everything will be okay with their brother. Strange girls are always falling for him. The second one asks the first one if she really thinks that something is wrong with her. Karen says in a trembling voice that she is not suitable for him at all. Celica says it annoys her that she suddenly lashed out with her perfume magic, but maybe it's because of the family motto. She's also thinking about whether her brother needs it now. Karen lies down on the table with her elbow and head and says that her brother has a weakness for beautiful girls. It will be easy for her to stupefy him, and he initially liked blondes. Celica asks Karen to look from her side, unless someone like her would choose a brother. She thinks about it and wants to say something. Celica says that only she, Karen, and Nanami know what his attraction is, and she doesn't think the others will understand. Karen looks at her, then awkwardly and uncertainly replies that she doesn't know. Maybe so. Celica shouts that, of course it's like that. She doesn't understand and asks where she gets such confidence from. Hikaru Kurosei comes out of the house and walks down the village street. He reflects that it's already evening. He thinks he can pop into the food stall and go to the maze. He hopes that there shouldn't be any problems with Alex, although the risk remains. Suddenly, someone shouts at him that she has found him. He turns to the side and sees how Refrae Ashbird is running hard towards him. She walks towards him with a wide smile and red cheeks, and he recognizes her. As soon as she reaches him, she breathes heavily, lowering her head. Refrae then straightens up and shouts at him reproachfully that she has been waiting at the entrance to the maze for ages. She takes a step towards him and says more calmly that no matter how much she waited for him, he did not appear. Hikaru Kurosei remains silent to her reproaches. For a moment, he thought that maybe she really had feelings for him. However, his thoughts are interrupted by the conversation of the crowd watching them. One person asks if they are really fighting. Another does not understand who this beauty is talking to. The third looks at Refrae Ashbird and says how pretty she is. Hikaru Kurosei realizes that this is bad. He looks around in a panic and sees that everyone is looking at them, and he so wanted to live in peace, to be unnoticed by anyone. He understands that the magic of the spirits of darkness should not be used in front of everyone, in which case he finds a solution. He takes a step back, and Refrae Ashbird looks at him in surprise and waits for his reaction. Hikaru Kurosei decides to run away from her. He runs away with all his might, leaving Refrae Ashbird in shock on the spot, who does not understand what is happening and why he is running. He turns a corner, and people look back at him in surprise because he's running so fast. He continues running and hears a voice asking him to wait for her. Hikaru Kurose thinks to himself, he doesn't need any problems. He looks around and sees only one person, then decides to turn into an alley. He keeps running, going down the stairs. He stops, puts his hands on his knees, and regains his breath. Nearby are houses with windows, decorated with flowers. He thinks he's run far enough away from her. But then, next to Refria, Ashbird asks him with a smile if he's been running around. Hikaru Kurose turns to her in horror. Refria Ashbird in beautiful clothes? Definitely not in knight's clothes. Refria Ashbird says that she has finally found him. Does he really think then that she will just let him go? Hikaru Kurose gets up. There is no one around. They stand in the middle of the houses in complete silence. Unexpectedly, he uses shadow binding on Refre. The shadows crawl over her body and then tie her up like a rope. Then he uses the shadow mist, after which he runs away, thinking that he has only more or less established life here. He is not going to get caught at such a moment. Refrea Ashbird, with a trembling voice and red cheeks, asks him to stand. She sees Hikaru Kurose's body gradually disappearing. In the evening, Hikaru Kurose sits on his bed and reflects on his behavior. He can't believe she's come to this. He remembers her expression, full of tenacity and confidence. He lies down on the bed, with his back down, and wonders what he should do now. He sighs, then opens his eyes and stares at the ceiling. He remembers the situation with Refrea again, how she chased him, asked him to wait or caught him on the street, and the situation with Alex, compares it, and thinks that it's like that with Alex. The more he thinks about what happened, the more he winds up. He thinks about the maze and begins to wonder if it might be time to leave this city, but whether the money he has now is enough for him. After a while, Hikaru Kurose is already in the maze, fighting a monster using shadow darkness and his knife. The walls are dirty and empty again, and it's dark inside. Hikaru Kurose kills the monster and sees a few stones left behind. He is simultaneously thinking about whether he will leave the city or not. To begin with, he decided to exchange spiritual stones for money. He takes turns killing all kinds of monsters. The main character comes out of the maze after work and looks around, thinking that Refrea Ashbird does not seem to be there. He thinks it's great. He goes on and reflects that he even used shadow binding on her and ran away. He wonders if she realized that he would run away from her. It's light outside, clouds are floating on it. He walks further into the shadows, meaning no one sees him. People just walk past him. Hikaru Kurose remembers and reflects that little by little, the spiritual pebbles have accumulated. He goes to that workshop and thinks that whatever happens, it should be enough to get out of the city. The main character takes the rings at the door and knocks on them, but immediately another hand grabs his hand and declares that this time she will not let him go. Hikaru Kurose turns around and sees Refre Ashbird with a confident look. Hikaru Kurose, frightened, asks her why she is here. 53. Refrea Ashbird replies with a smile that this is the only place in the area where spirit stones are sold illegally. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand why she's picking on him so much. Hikaru Kurose stands in front of the referee in a stupor. He does not understand why she became attached to him at all. He stands with his mouth open. Refrea Ashbird repeats his question about how he managed to find it. She explains that his name was not on the guild's list, so she assumed she would find him in an illegal store. She talks about it excitedly. There is silence. Hikara is silent. Hikara is silent, and then indignantly asks if she's been waiting for him here all this time. She replies that she tried to wait at the entrance to the maze, but he still did not show up, so the local source was questionable, but she received valuable information. Hikaru Kurose begins to understand what is wrong. He turns abruptly and sees the old man, who is smiling slyly and mischievously, throwing his arms to the sides. He realizes that this old man has ratted him out. Refrea Ashbird abruptly grabs Hikaru Kurose by the arm to stop him from running away. Refrea Ashbird says that now that she has found him again, she asks him not to run away. Hikaru Kurose freezes in place in shock with his mouth open. He wonders on the spot what to do now, whether to use force and escape. He understands that it is unlikely to succeed because she is surprisingly strong. She squeezes his hand so that Hikaru Kurose's hand trembles with pain. He does not understand why she is so persistently trying to get to her. What is the benefit to her from this? He sees her looking at him with a smile. He finally asks her in direct language what she is going to do with him. She's still holding my hand. Hikaru Kurose is already terrified, wondering if she wants to hand him over to the authorities because he wields dark spirit magic, or if she will be given a reward for catching an adventurer without a license. He purses his lips and looks at her with fear. He firmly decides for himself that he does not want to go to prison and is not going to die either. He tells Rafria that he will resist if her answer does not suit him. Rafria Ashbird asks in surprise why she didn't want to do anything like that and didn't plan to. She then smiles broadly and tells him that he saved her and she just wanted to thank him. Hikaru Kurose continues to stand in a stupor and thinks that, therefore, she is not going to hand him over to the authorities. Hikaru Kurose screams that it's all for nothing. He demands that she let go of his hand. He thinks he can't be fooled. He jerks his hand, and then Rafria Ashbird also firmly declares that she will not do this. If she lets go, he will immediately run away. Hikaru Kurose shouts that he has not given up on her gratitude. He repeats several times that he does not need her. Rafria Ashbird calmly says that he can do nothing, but she can't do that. She smiles sweetly and warmly again, and then asks if it's okay for her at least a little, but she's still holding her hand. Hikaru Kurose stands there and already thinks tiredly that she is sick, crazy. She doesn't listen at all to what is being said to her. He gets angry and takes small steps towards her, slowly pushing her against the wall. The main character shouts that he is tired of her. He slams her into the wall and puts his hand near her face, leaning against the wall. Rafria Ashbird doesn't react in any way. She just smiles awkwardly and tucks her legs up. She languidly looks at him. The main character shouts that he doesn't need her gratitude at all, so let her answer his question. What is her goal? Hikaru Kurose asks if he saved her. He saved her. He demands that they end this. Rafria Ashbird opens her mouth to say something but then closes it in silence. She turns away from him and only says some part of the word. The main character looks at her in disbelief and waits for an answer. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand what's wrong with her because she's suddenly quiet. He assumes that maybe she's moved her head and is about to attack him. The main character squeezes his hand and is careful. Rafria Ashbird says that word again, but the beginning of that word is inaudible. You can see that her cheeks are reddening by the second. She looks up at him, looks at him with firm confidence, and then declares, putting her hand on her heart, that she has fallen in love with him. 86 Hikaru Kurose stands in shock and asks what she just said. Karen screams in horror. What is she saying? Has she really fallen in love? She follows the events with Hikaru Kurose. She is bombarded with comments that Karen is so cute when she suddenly loses her temper. Someone writes that Hikaru Kurose is finally communicating with others and even liked such a beauty. Someone claims that this is actually a date. Karen is trembling all over and says that for no reason at all she said such a thing. What is she talking about at all? She turns abruptly on the spot. After that, he steps back and immediately shouts to his sister Celica to get up because they have an emergency. At this time in the world of games, Hikaru Kurose stands in front of the referee, not knowing what to do at all. At first, he pulls away from her and, in shock, begins to wonder if she has fallen in love. She has definitely just said that at all. Rafria Ashbird says with embarrassment, twisting her fingers, that this is not a reason for her to thank him, but she thought that if she had one, she would be able to meet him again. Hikaru Kurose yells at her what she's talking about. Rafria Ashbird tells him her name and asks him to call her that. She looks at him with her loving eyes, which makes Hikaru Kurose blush himself. He abruptly grabs her hand and tells her to come here, then groans from the sharp grip. Hikaru Kurose immediately tells her not to make strange noises. The shopkeeper watches all this, then smiles and lowers his head, showing that he understands everything. Hikaru Kurose leads Rafria Ashbird around the corner next to a wooden box. Hikaru Kurose begins to find out and explain everything. He rubs his nose and repeats that she says she pursued him because she fell in love. She lowers her head and wants to say something in her defense. The girl squeezes her cheeks with her palms, makes puppy dog eyes and says that she really wanted to meet him. She admits that it is strange to her that she behaves like this. The main character looks at her and blushes even more. His eyes are wide and his palm covers his mouth. Rafria Ashbird says with despair that she can't help herself. Hikaru Kurose thinks to himself, is she really joking here? He's sure of it. Of course she's faking it, in his opinion. He begins to reflect on his life. He has never been liked by the opposite sex, and that such a beauty would be flattering to him, of course. Kurose gathers his strength to speak against what he thinks. He looks away and says he doesn't know why she likes him anymore, but he's almost grown into the maze of this city. The main character says, remembering their first meeting inside the maze, that, of course, he saved her then, but he believes that it just happened. He looks at her and tells her not to misunderstand. Refreya Ashbird listens to everything. Hikaru Kurose continues to say that, besides, she is too beautiful for him. There is an awkward silence. The main character reflects that because she was rescued, she had a misconception. He thinks she's just deluding herself. Here, Refreya Ashbird takes matters into her own hands and declares that this is not the case for her. Hikaru Kurose listens attentively. The girl puts her hand on her heart again and awkwardly says that she has such feelings for the first time. Silence falls again. 114. She looks away, still blushing, and says she needs to leave town, so she just wanted to thank him. Hikaru stands with his head down and wonders if that's the only reason. He suddenly regains consciousness, as if the main character screams in a panic that this is how it is. Refreya Ashbird quietly says that it is. Hikaru Kurose begins to realize that he jumped to conclusions. He thinks that it looks like she was really going to thank him without malice, he forced her to confess. He doubts that maybe the local fell in love doesn't mean dating, like Japanese schoolchildren. Kurose awkwardly scratches his head, looks away, and replies that it's okay, meaning all he has to do is just accept her gratitude. He asks if this is true. Refreya Ashbird happily asks how he will receive her, placing her hand on his shoulder. The main character awkwardly replies that yes, sort of. Hikaru Kurose awkwardly tells her to forgive him too for being so stubborn. Refreya Ashbird smiles broadly at these words. Then she grabs his hand and pulls him along. Refreya says they should have lunch together first. 114. The main character runs after her, not understanding such sharp turns. He does not understand what else to have lunch for. Why? They walk down the street. Refreya asks Kurose if there is anything he doesn't eat. He obediently follows her and replies that there doesn't seem to be anything like that. The girl then asks you to rely on her. They are walking along a city street where there are only a few people. Hikaru Kurose thought she was going to give him something, but then there was lunch. He sighs mentally because he can't put lunch in his pocket. Her hair flutters pleasantly on his face. The main character begins to reflect on what a beautiful hair color she has. Platinum blonde. He had only seen it on TV and in photographs. He stares at her hair. Kurose begins to think about the general appearance, that he is like this next to her, all in black and with black hair. He thinks they look like a princess and her escort together. She's all in a beautiful dress, and he's in an inexpensive black suit, like her servant. Refreya Ashbird brings him back to reality, saying that they have come to a place. Hikaru Kurose sees only the door to one of the houses without signs. The main character thinks that this is an ordinary, modest eatery, but he was so worried about what kind of place it would be. Refreya Ashbird asks if he's really in the clouds. Let him come in already. Hikaru Kurose obeys and comes in. The waiter wishes them well, and she addresses Refreya specifically, calling her by her affectionate name. She says with the same intonation that she came to them again. Refreya Ashbird winks at Hikaru Kurose and suggests that they go deeper into the hall. The main character looks away at this and only nods imperceptibly. The girl pulls out a chair and tells him to sit there and not run away anymore. She asks if it's settled. Hikaru Kurose replies that he has gone too far, so he definitely won't run away. The waitress comes over and takes their order. Refreya Ashbird enthusiastically points to the menu items and orders a variety of dishes. At this time, the main character just sits quietly and looks at the situation in the establishment. He sees a man at the bar and thinks that, if you think about it, this is his first time in this world in a canteen. In the forest, he ate fruits, and here in food stalls. I still didn't have the courage to go into the diner alone. Refreya Ashbird sees his confused and thoughtful look and asks if something is wrong. Hikaru Kurose looks at her for a long time at first and is silent. And then he says it's nothing, so don't let it come to mind. The main character continues to reflect that Refreya Ashbird will leave the city anyway, so today you can afford to relax a little. The waiter comes with a tray. The girl says that her order has arrived. There are glasses of drinks on the table in front of them. Hikaru Kurose picks it up and wonders if orange juice really looks like a fruit drink. Refreya Ashbird starts talking again and lets her do something again. She expresses her gratitude for saving her life in the maze. The main character looks away with embarrassment. They raise their glasses. Refreya Ashbird joyfully shouts that they will drink. Hikaru Kurose awkwardly and quietly supports her words. He brings the glass to his lips and sips a little. Kurosei immediately remembers this characteristic fragrance, and his eyes widen dramatically. The main character pulls back, looks at the glass, and asks if it's an intoxicating drink. Rafria easily confirms this and asks if he can't. She also asks if it's really delicious here. Hikaru Kurosei doesn't deny it and says it's delicious. He may be underage, but if it's another world, he doesn't think it's a problem here. He holds out his glass and shouts that when a man is in Rome, he should act like the Romans themselves. The main character pours the whole drink into himself with great pleasure. He thinks it's sweet and easy to drink. He doesn't think it's strong. It definitely shouldn't be. Rafria Ashford drinks too and quietly puts the glass on the table. The girl starts saying that she still couldn't find out his name before, but maybe he'll tell her now. Hikaru Kurosei looks at her for a long time with red cheeks. He raises his head and says his name, Hikaru Kurosei. After that, he immediately panics. Maybe he shouldn't have called him anyway, and then he completely accepted it. Rafria Ashford repeats his name and then smiles sincerely and cleanly, saying that he has a good name. Hikaru awkwardly asks if she really thinks that. He says it looks like a woman's dress, which is why he doesn't like it, but he thinks it's better than his sisters, who were named after car brands. Rafria asks him, he's not from here. She doesn't wait for his answer, and says that she herself is from Silthion. It would probably be clearer if she said that there is a cathedral of light there. Hikaru Kurosei thoughtfully says that then he understands why she has the magic of the spirits of light. He's trying to keep up the conversation. Rafria Ashford says that's true, even if she looks like it. She adds that she's still a Knight of Light student. At the same time, she confidently declares this with red cheeks. Hikaru Kurosei mentally expects forgiveness from the referee, because he is from another world and does not know if it is cool or not. The main character asks her if he's really still a student, even though he's so strong. She replies that if you don't master the magic of spirits well, then you can't pass the exam for the rank of knight. Hikaru Kurosei immediately thinks that then it turns out that he could become a Knight of Darkness. He smiles at the thought. Hikaru Kurosei giggles in front of her, covering his mouth with his hand. She's outraged and asks what's so funny. Of course, it's time for her to grow out of the students, and she should take the night exam as soon as possible. She talks a lot in a panic. The main character apologizes to her and says that he wasn't laughing at her. He was thinking and laughing about his own. Rafria Ashford looks at him questioningly and waits for him to explain why he did it. Hikaru Kurosei thinks that it was probably because of the drink that he was in high spirits, that he didn't care about the people around him or the viewers from the ground. Hot dishes are brought to them, and they apologize for waiting. A lot of plates with meat, vegetables, mushrooms, rolls, and sausages are placed in front of him. Hikaru Kurosei looks at it with great appetite and says with surprise how big the portion is. He thinks it looks delicious, but does not understand if it will fit into it. He starts eating in large chunks, and hurriedly, Rafria Ashford also eats with him in silence. The main character is eating. Rafria Ashford is laughing. They're having fun talking about unimportant topics. Kurosei drinks the drink and says that he hasn't eaten so thoroughly in a long time. Rafria Ashford asks if this is really the case. She says it doesn't seem to be very expensive here. The main character already sadly says that he had no money and he was alone all the time. He lowers his gaze. He begins to realize that this is his first time eating with someone in this world. He looks at Rafria Ashford, who smiles at him happily. Kurosei remembers his past life. In Japan, he had younger sisters and Nanami, but now he doesn't even have anyone to chat with. He's already been thinking about sad things since he came to another world. He's always been scared of the audience. Nevertheless, today is the first time he's done something like this. Rafria Ashford gets scared and asks him to wait, and then in a panic asks him why he is crying. Indeed, tears are pouring out of Hikaru Kurosei's eyes. He doesn't notice it at all. The main character asks if he's really crying. He wipes it off and says he's really crying. He apologizes, laughs nervously, and wonders why he's like that. He cries even more, passes his hand over his face, and says that it's been a long time since he's eaten with anyone, and the food is delicious too, in his opinion. Kurosei tells her honestly that he is glad that she invited him. He thinks to himself that at first he thought he needed her gratitude, but now he thinks differently. He thanks her with a wide smile and red cheeks. The main character calls Rafria Ashford by name, which she opens her mouth in surprise. After hearing this, she lowers her head, then looks around with terribly red cheeks. She rubs her palm near her mouth. Rafria creates a wind with her palm and blows in her face, laughs nervously and says she's glad to hear it. Then she adds that it's hot in here. They laugh awkwardly at the situation together, waving their arms in front of each other. Night falls, the moon peeks out of the clouds. They leave the diner. Hikaru Kurose immediately says that he doesn't think they'll meet again, so he thanks her for today. He remembers about the temple night exam and wishes her luck. He leaves and begins to think that he will start hanging out in this dark maze again, but at least these memories will stay with him. Here, Refreya Ashberg grabs his hand again and asks Hikaru Kurose to stand. She grabs him so hard that his hand is shaking. The girl says that she has not finished thanking yet. She awkwardly says that everything is just beginning. Hikaru Kurose interrupts her and says that's enough, because he won't accept anything more. Refreya Ashbird says that's not what she's talking about. She pulls him over and says that the Ashbird family's motto is to always be grateful for the kindness shown. Is it possible for saving a life to be repaid only with lunch? Refreya pulls him along. He obediently follows her and resists, even if she says so. As a result, they stop at the same building. Hikaru Kurose looks at it and, after thinking about it, says that this is a hotel. She awkwardly replies that it is. Refreya Ashbird blushes terribly and says with her head down that this is a cheap hotel where she is staying. She pulls him in and suggests they do it faster before they're noticed. They pass through the hotel corridor. As a result, they enter the room. Refreya Ashbird asks him to sit on the bed. Hikaru Kurose only obediently agrees. The girl goes to the door and locks the door. Hikaru Kurose sees her suspicious actions and calls her by name. She searches for something in the closet and says that, of course, she said she would thank you more, but in fact, she doesn't have much money. The main character listens to her and with a smile tells her not to bother then. He already wants to sleep anyway and will go soon. Refreya Ashbird lights a candle and refuses, saying she wants to thank him. She unbuttons the top buttons in her nightgown and says with a red face that this is all she could think of. Hikaru Kurose looks at the inner garment under his shirt in disbelief. Hikaru Kurose looks at the magnificent forms of Refreya Ashbird. His mouth involuntarily opens while she slowly pulls off her shirt. The girl looks at him confidently. The main character closes his eyes, turns away and tells her, strictly calling her by name, that he doesn't really understand what's going on. He asks, "It's not customary to give thanks like that here." The shirt from Refreya Ashbird falls to the floor with a big soundtrack. She reaches for the candle, turns down its light and says that it is not accepted, then adds that it is most likely not accepted. Hikaru Kurose still doesn't look at her. Refreya says that, against all odds, she thought her body could be valuable. She holds her curves and looks awkwardly at the floor. The girl hesitantly says that she only has no experience at all. Besides, she is not sure that she will succeed well. At the same time, she looks at Hikaru Kurose with seductive eyes. Refreya looks at him hopefully. The main character blushes and turns in her direction. His mouth opens. Kurose tells her that her body, is certainly valuable, perhaps worth a few gold coins. He asks, but is it possible to set any price? Refreya Ashbird, in a panic, says that setting a price is probably still too much. She looks down again and says she's glad he thinks so. Besides, she really likes Hikaru Kurose. She closes her eyes and feels his hand touching her shoulder. The girl opens her eyes and sees the main character looking at her with the same awkward eyes and looking away from embarrassment. He asks her what if another guy had saved her instead of him. He's starting to get violent about it. The main character asks if she would have behaved the same way as a corrupt girl. She is shocked by this name and screams that no, it's not like that at all. Hikaru Kurose pulls her by the shoulders and shouts that it looks like that. He demands to know how it differs. Refreya Ashbird looks at him in horror. The main character thinks to himself that she looks like she has brains, but in fact he thinks she's stupid. She is impulsive, reckless, hyper-responsible, even if she is good-natured. After a long pause, Refreya Ashbird begins to say that she couldn't think of anything else. She hides her gaze. Besides, she really thought that since it was with Hikaru Kurose, it was a good thing. She doesn't get angry in any way, and she gets even angrier when she says these words with a pure heart. The girl remembers the first meeting inside the maze again and says that when he came out of the darkness, he looked so cool. Hikaru Kurose looks at her without emotion and then pronounces her name in a serious voice, preparing for words without tenderness. He asks if adventurers aren't supposed to help each other, so there's no need to think about paying back every little thing. The main character says that he is the parents, that if she really wants to show gratitude, then just treat her to lunch. Refreya Ashbird sadly lowers her head. Hikaru Kurose sees her reaction and is sad too. He's not sure what kind of adventurers are really here. In this world, they do nothing but hunt, but mutual assistance seems quite natural. He turns his head and says that he is also a man, and he may not be able to resist if you do such actions with him and look at him with such eyes. The main character says that this is all because Refrea Ashbird is beautiful and charming. The girl opens her eyes in shock, not believing her ears. Kurosei adds later that, however, such gratitude does not please him. He looks at her expectantly, but she remains silent and does not look in his direction. The main character closes his eyes and calls up the menu. A window appears in front of him. He sees that the number of viewers in real time is about 210 million. He realizes that this scene is gaining more and more viewers. The main character begins to reflect that he enjoyed spending time with Refrea, but this only masks his loneliness. If he continues to communicate with her, then the audience will be watching her. He gets up thinking that it would be disrespectful to her. He tells her that, in any case, she has already thanked him enough. He asks her never to do that again. The main character leaves. She grabs his hand again and tells him to wait. Hikaru Kurosei turns to her hopefully. She asks him not to leave and says that if he stops scolding her, she will make mistakes again, so she asks to scold her again. Kurosei purses his lips and looks at her. She looks away and says that if he leaves now, then maybe she will leave with someone else. He asks if this is really a threat, to which she says that then he will stay because he is kind. The main character scratches his head and wonders if this is some kind of feminine ploy. He frowns and thinks about what to do. He sits back on the bed and asks Refrea Ashbird how old she is. She is surprised by this question. Refrea Ashbird replies that she is 16 years old, and then she asks Hikaru Kurosei the same question, who first answers that he is 15, and then corrects and says that he is 17. She says with great pleasure that he is older than her, covering her mouth with her palm. Hikaru Kurosei irritably and tiredly asks what's the big deal. He thinks to himself with surprise that she is only 16 years old, because before that he thought that she would definitely be older. Kurosei says that since she is 16 years old, she is old enough to think for herself, so he has no right to interfere. The girl asks, so he doesn't mind if she goes to cling to others and be with others. He replies that he is against it. Refrea Ashbird turns around somewhat happily and asks why. He replies again that it's because she's beautiful, and he doesn't want her beauty to be desecrated by incomprehensible men. She rushes into his arms, causing Hikaru Kurosei to lose his balance and fall. He is shocked and asks her why she is doing this. Refrea Ashbird tells him with a big smile that if it's him, then she doesn't care. She then makes a reservation that no, it's not like that, with no one else, she only wants to be with him. This is the first time she feels this way. She describes that her heart is pounding with joy, and she is going crazy just from how warmly he treats her. Hikaru Kurosei clutches the sheet, and in a panic he curses and tells Refrea Ashbird to come to her senses. He asks if she's just under the influence of that drink they had at the diner. The girl asks him to swear at her again, as he did just now. Her gaze is hazy and distracted. Hikaru Kurosei is already angrily asking if she's crazy at all, and he swears at her several times. The girl enjoys it and hugs him even tighter. She says he's the first one who's ever talked to her like that. Hikaru Kurosei, in a panic, says that she definitely shouldn't drink like that anymore because she'll only do stupid things like that, or rather, she's already doing them. Refrea Ashbird asks if he thinks she's acting like this because she drank that drink. He is indignant and asks what else could be if not because of this. She gets up from him and sits on him, then with a sly smile says that she is only pretending, otherwise she would be ashamed to behave so openly. Hikaru Kurosei, already in a panic, tells her to really stop already because he's already leaving. Refrea Ashbird asks if he won't stay, and he firmly declares that he won't stay. Refrea Ashbird says coquettishly that she will then go for a walk, make eyes at others. The main character asks her not to joke like that. Refrea Ashbird takes his hand and puts it on her dignity. She asks him to look. He's horrified and asks what she's doing. Refrea Ashbird asks if he can feel her heart pounding. She says that in recent days she has been constantly thinking about him while she was looking for him. She was wondering what to say to him. She was wondering what he looked like while laughing. The girl already admits honestly that this is why gratitude was just an excuse. She felt so good and had fun with him when they had lunch together. She comes face to face with him and asks him if he was having fun and having fun with her, just like she was. He replies that it is, and he humbly closes his eyes. Then he hears an announcement that asks for the attention of all the migrants. It says that starting tomorrow, they will begin the first viewer rating race in 2 weeks. People say that they have prepared an amazing prize for the one who gets the most viewers. They are looking forward to their participation. They say that the main prize of this commemorative event will be the Pearl of the Resurrection of the Dead, a chance to bring their loved ones back to life. He immediately remembers Nanami. He doesn't notice how Ashbird is squeezing Refray. She moans and asks him not to squeeze so hard. Hikaru Kurose apologizes and asks to wait a bit. Refria Ashbird gets scared and asks what's wrong with him. He's shaking all over. Hikaru Kurose doesn't say anything and thinks it was, they said, Pearl of the Resurrection of the Dead. He's really shaking. He thinks about the Pearl of the Resurrection of the Dead. It can be used both on those who died on Earth and on those who died in another world. The main character sweats all over and clicks on the menu with barely trembling hands. He thinks that if he gets first place in this race, he can resurrect Nanami. He hears a voice asking him to get in touch. Someone very funny calls him a giggler and asks him to get in touch again. It's Nanami, turning her head back, telling Hikari Kurose if he has a girlfriend he likes. The main character raises his head and thoughtfully repeats whether he has a girlfriend that he likes. They're the only ones in the classroom, sitting by the window. He says he doesn't even know, and then answers with the same doubt that he doesn't think so. Minami looks at him and is a little pleased with his answer. She pretends to be surprised, saying, wow, then asks, what about Salika and Karenka? Hikaru Kurose indignantly asks her what the sisters have to do with it. Minami tries to find an explanation, then says that they're both so cute, which is probably why he's not interested in other girls at school. The main character leans back in his chair, folds his hands at his head, and tells Nanami that siblings are not treated like that, and it's not that he's not interested in others. He stops in conversation, turns his head to the side, and says that he's probably just slowing down in this regard. Nanami looks away with red cheeks and says she understands. The clock is ticking. It's getting close to evening already. After a pause and reflection, she then asks him which girl he would like. She doesn't wait for an answer and says that she is a stunning beauty who looks like a celebrity. In her opinion, he might have fallen in love with her. Hikaru Kurose replies that usually such girls choose others, not like him. Nanami indignantly says that he's at it again. She thinks he has too low self-esteem. The main character adds that she's realistic, though. Nanami keeps asking, and if such a beauty confessed to him, what would he do then? Hikaru Kurose looks at her for a long time, begins to answer doubtfully. His name flashes past his ears several times. He wakes up in the world of games. Refria Ashbird tugs on his shoulders and calls his name. They are sitting in a bed inside her hotel room. She excitedly asks him what's wrong with him. Out of nowhere, is he feeling unwell? Suddenly, he hugs her to him, which makes her moan in surprise. They are sitting quietly on this bed and hugging. Hikaru Kurose thinks to himself, addressing Nanami, that he will take the first place by all means, even if it means selling his soul to the devil. The main character asks her if her offer is still valid. He understands for himself that using Refray Ashbird like this is the worst possible way. She awkwardly replies that, of course, but she doesn't understand, and asks him why he changed his mind. Hikaru Kurose replies pointedly that circumstances have changed. If she wants, she can thank him later. She asks again if it means later, that is, not today. The main character replies that it is, but he will certainly accept her gratitude. He wants her to thank the other guy like that. He closes his eyes and reflects that the more disgusting he behaves, the more viewers will hate him. He squeezes Refria Ashbird's back, and she feels his hand tremble. Hikaru Kurose is thinking about the number of viewers who will hate him. The girl begins to tell him that the fact that he will accept her gratitude, even later, is wonderful, of course, but she is leaving town soon. She quickly starts saying that her partners have already returned, and she was going to come back as soon as she thanked him. Hikaru Kurose asks if this means she's quitting her job as an adventurer. She replies that it is. She understands that he cannot do it alone, but she does not finish with others. She tells him straight out that, if possible, she would like to thank him today. 295 Hikaru Kurose turns to her. She says that when she returns to Silshin, she will not be able to get here so easily. Hikaru Kurose thinks that maybe the time she spent with him will remain with her as a memory of her trip here. He understands that, however, she is his key to victory in this icon. The main character purses his lips in despair. He pulls away from her, turns to the girl, and asks if she would join him in a squad tomorrow. Then Kurose firmly tells her that he needs her. The girl pulls away from him with red cheeks, and asks with a groan if this is really true. She says that, of course, she would be very happy to team up with him, but she does not understand what is really going on. The girl, of course, noticed that Hikaru Kurose had changed so suddenly. He realizes that he has been caught and begins to reflect that he has changed and that she is right. From the moment he entered this world, he tried to live inconspicuously. He remembers all his tricks when he was in the shadowy darkness and walked past all the people. The main character clutches the sheet and thinks that in order to resurrect us, he is ready to become a villain and use this girl, even if the audience hates him for it. He understands that he is doing all this just to win first place. Next, Kurose turns to the girl and says that he will definitely tell her everything when the time comes. He asks her again, but in the meantime, won't she join him? Refreya Ashbird thinks about it at first, and then briefly agrees. Later, she says with a smile that she is glad to see Hikaru Kurose, who is so strong in spirit magic, as a partner. The main character looks at her hard and guiltily, and then thanks her, saying that he will come for her in the morning. He gets up, kisses her on the cheek, and says they will see each other tomorrow. Refreya Ashbird did not expect such an action. Her eyes widen, her cheeks turn red, and her mouth opens. As soon as he pulls away, the girl strokes the cheek that Hikaru Kurose kissed with her palm. She starts blushing even more. The main character silently leaves, leaving her alone. On the way, he reflects, even before leaving her room, that she is beautiful and that she will definitely attract viewers. Refreya Ashbird in turn looks after him. He slowly closes the door and thinks that he will definitely atone for his behavior after everything is over, and therefore he will definitely win. The main character leaves the room and thinks that he will do it at any cost, even if it costs him his life. At night, he sees comments that Refreya is too assertive and that he is jealous of them, that asking to stay in a hotel like this is too blatant. Someone claims that the women of this world, the world of games, are real predators. Someone writes that the number of viewers is growing very much. Someone writes that Ms. Refreya Ashbird is only 16 years old, so the other world is amazing. Someone writes that they cannot say that they are amazing in a good way. Someone is outraged that Hikaru Kurose rebuffed her. Another writes that the main character is well done, that he could overcome such a temptation. He would have eaten it in a moment. Someone turns to Refreya Ashbird and says that she is behaving too aggressively, while another suspects that she is a stalker and a yandere. Someone talks about her forms. They talk about the divine perspective. Someone writes that Hikaru Kurose behaved strangely at the most inopportune moment. They don't understand what's happening to him. The two sisters of the main character are sitting and watching the whole picture. They hear the announcements and happily say that it will also be possible to resurrect their little sister on us. The two men, one dark-haired and one blonde, are also sitting at the computer and watching the news. They see the graduation of Hikaru Kurose's two little sisters. Celica says that in 2 weeks they will be in touch with them 24 hours a day to cover the broadcast with their brother live in several languages. One says that their brother will do everything possible to bring Nanami's little sister back to life. Another says that they will do their best to support their brother. They both ask viewers to join the broadcast with Hikaru Kurose. This is necessary in order for their brother to take the first place, and for them to support him. Alex is already hearing about the audience rating race in another place. The other person asks Alex to go already. He leaves, and at this time, some girl looks at some data on the menu and says that she will personally find out the whole truth about Nanami's murder. Thus, the first audience rating icon began. The chapter begins with a description of Refreya Ashbird's feelings. She explains that he appeared, hidden in the impenetrable darkness. She says that her heart was beating faster, either because of the threat to her life or maybe the reason was completely different. However, the girl couldn't take her eyes off him. That day, she believes, she met her fate. Refreya stands with his company near the entrance to the maze. They make a friendly gesture and say that they are going to the maze again today. The girl happily guides and tells them to go ahead. The rest of the team agrees with minimal enthusiasm and obeys her. They go down the stairs and discuss something. One of them asks Claudia if he really left her. She thinks he seemed like a normal guy to her. Claudia replies that it is. It turns out he was having fun until he got married. Another says that Sasha and the baker's son seem to be fine, but she replies that he was actually unfaithful. Refreya Ashbird hears all this and thinks that there were girls in her squad who came to this city to find a boyfriend. One girl tells the master that she is not interested in boys at all, and so proudly replies that she does not need it at all. And Rafria thinks to herself that she doesn't even know what it's like to fall in love. Claudia says sarcastically that, of course, she hasn't even fallen in love once. The other girls start laughing at her joke. Claudia comes up to her from behind, and then with a big grin says that she has grown so big, and then starts touching her big forms. They jokingly tell her that if she doesn't need them, then let her share them with them. They think it's a real treasure. Rafria Ashbird asks them to stop. She says resentfully that it's not her fault that they've grown up so much. They keep walking while the girl is thinking. She came to Meltia to become stronger and take the exams for the night of the temple. In the maze, they lower their weapons and collect the spirit stones that fell from the slain monsters. Rafria reflects that, they say, the magic of spirits is enhanced every time it is used, and it will not be possible to become a knight of the temple if a person does not know how to use a lightsaber. However, no matter how much she used spirit magic, unfortunately, she didn't see any progress. The girl sadly looks away and thinks that everything is right. She fatally makes a remark to herself that she has no talent. Rafria thinks that she is a hopeless gray that will never shine. When the threat comes, she commands and tells everyone to run, whatever they want, even if they crawl. A series of mistakes, and they almost died on their first day in the maze. She asked the girls, but no one was injured. The other replies that her whole body aches. Another one says she doesn't think she'll be able to fight if she's attacked again. One of the girls asks what they should do now, referring to the master of Rafria Ashbird. She says that you should be strong enough to make it to the end of the second level. However, the girl is doubtful. Rafria Ashbird understands what this is about. After all, the whole squad is wounded. Therefore, it would be right to do something else. Suddenly, a girl who is sitting on the sidelines says it's time. Rafria Ashbird looks at her in horror and freezes in disbelief. One girl says in support that she was just going to come back early. Another says that stopping on time is also important. Rafria Ashbird begins to think that she was at the limit of her powers. She wanted to remain an adventurer, no matter what, having no talent, continuing to use spirit magic and being discouraged by the lack of progress. She squeezes her hand and then squeezes out an awkward one and asks if they can still get to the end, but mentally she gives up anyway. The girls look at her in surprise. The girl with the long hair agrees with the referee and says, "Yes, great, that's what they'll do." Two girls with short hair look at each other awkwardly. One says that she agrees, the other adds that they are going to the end. Then Rafria realizes that she can't keep them company anymore. They are fighting monsters in the maze. While she's fighting with everyone, she thinks that this life will end today. This is the last time for her. Suddenly, a monster attacks Claudia, who falls along with her shield. Rafria screams her name in horror. She's acting fast, but she thinks she's out of luck today. She immediately removes this monster from Claudia and protects her. Rafria is fighting a praying mantis. Claudia lies there and screams her name in horror. The mantis and the girl continue to fight. She uses her sword, and the mantis uses its paws. All the girls stand aside and just watch. At this time, Rafria is wondering what she will do when she gets home, what she can do at all. Is there anything left for her? She starts to think that if that's the case, then at least she'll save the girls. After much persuasion, she screams at the girls to run and call for help. They immediately obey and run away. After fighting for a long time, the sword of Rafria is thrown back by a hard blow from the mantis. She falls back and sits defenseless while the mantis approaches her. The girl at this time thinks that she will at least be able to die for her friends. The mantis stands right in front of Rafria's face, emerging from the shadow of Hikaru Kurosei. His dark silhouette begins to transform, only his bright light eyes are visible. Rafria hears how the main character uses shadow binding and immediately realizes that it is the magic of dark spirits. The girl remembers it all and thinks that only the sound of his voice was heard in the darkness. She felt her whole body ache in her chest. It was already burning so much that she forgot how to breathe. At some point, she returns to reality and wonders if she is destined to die here. But following Hikaru Kurosei's actions, she comes to the conclusion that it doesn't look like it. As soon as the main character finishes with the mantis and tries to leave, she apologizes, and the conversation begins. She believes that this meeting was fateful. Rafria wished she could see his face just once. She wasn't going to do that, but she couldn't resist. Then she used her light magic to see him when Hikaru Kurosei covered his eyes with his palm from the blinding light. Rafria reflects that the magic of the spirits of light reminds her of her failures, and to some extent she even hates it. But this time, it felt like she had been waiting for this day just to see Hikaru Kurose. Rifria didn't know what was the best thing to do. She could only promise to meet again, and then just left. She promises herself that she will definitely thank him for saving her. When the girl came out, she saw her girls telling the guard that they were on the second level. At some point, Claudia notices that Rifrea is coming out and calling her name. They are shocked to ask how it is. Is she really okay? Is she really okay? Everyone comes up to her, hugs her tightly, and begins to cry, praising God. Next, Rifrea was already looking for him herself. She wanted to get to know him better, so she walked around the city, along the streets, and looked at every corner. She was interested in everything: his name, age, his favorite food, color, and how he laughs. The girl realizes that her feelings overwhelmed her, and she continued to search. She didn't care what anyone thought of her. All her thoughts and desires were about him. As soon as she finds Hikaru Kurose, then he runs away. She is breathing heavily, goes up to him and says that she has found him. Rifrea realizes what she is looking for and pursues her because she has fallen in love. While all the people are going about their business, the migrants hear the announcement again, which asks for the attention of all of them. An unknown person is shouting that he is declaring the first audience rating race open. All migrants monitor their ratings in the menu. Hikaru Kurose sees that the number of viewers in real time reaches 192,338,465 people in his field. He clicks on that first viewer rating race, sees that it will last 2 weeks starting from this day. Those who use the recently launched advanced points system are not allowed to participate in the race. Those who use it are eliminated from it. The hero agrees that this is unfair. The one with the longest viewing time will win. He greets a certain system, introduces himself to Hikaru Kurose, and says that he's starting to participate today. The main character understands that if he says now that he is going to win the first place for Nanami, then no one will believe him. He says out loud that starting today, he's teaming up with the referee, but before that, he needs to do something. He increases his strength by 1 level for the remaining 5 points. These points are deducted from him, but the level of physical strength is doubled. The main character feels that his whole body is on fire. Now he will surely be able to go beyond the second level of the maze. The menu turns off. He looks around, pressing his back against the brick-finished wall. Kurose says he has to wait for Rifreu. He feels awkward after yesterday with her, but he hopes maybe she has forgotten everything. A girl appears from the corner, calls his name and asks if there is someone else with him. He gets scared and in shock calls her by name and asks if she was really here. Rifrea excitedly approaches and asks if he was talking to himself. Maybe something happened. He replies that everything is wrong and that everything is fine. He wishes her a good morning. Rifrea smiles happily at his words and wishes him a good morning too. Hikaru Kurose is fascinated by her, stares at her, and then looks away from awkwardness. He scratches his head and, without looking into her eyes, asks if she slept well. He says that he couldn't sleep. Surprised, Rifrea asks if he couldn't sleep either. She blushes, strokes her cheek too, and says that, to be honest, she didn't sleep very well either. Hikaru Kurose looks down and asks her doubtfully if she remembers what happened yesterday. She blushes even more and says she remembers. She certainly didn't forget what she promised. She looks away. Hikaru Kurose doesn't look at her either and says he's about joining the squad. He thinks to himself that if she knew the truth, then perhaps she would refuse, and therefore he cannot tell her everything yet. The main character says that he is, in fact, still a beginner and does not know a lot of things. Rifrea says to rely on her. He listens and suggests that she go to the second level. Rifrea hurriedly tells him to wait and says he needs to go to the guild first. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand and asks again. The girl looks at him for a long time and then says that she knew he hadn't registered with the guild. She tells him that the administration of the labyrinth, which is also a guild, he gives contracts to adventurers for the destruction of monsters and the extraction of spiritual stones. They enter the guild building, and Rifrea says that he must apply for a contract before entering the maze. She asks him if he understands, and he says that he always sneaked in there. The girl exhales in disappointment and tells Hikaru Kurose not to tell anyone else about this, because, in the worst case, he will be captured. He is silent and does not respond to this. After a while, the main character turns to her and asks if they can register him, because he doesn't even have an address. The referee replies that anyone is registered, unless, of course, he is a criminal. She believes that with his strength, he will quickly rise to the dwarf class. He doesn't understand what kind of dwarf class it is and asks her about it. Refria tells him that adventurers are ranked from 1st to 6th grade. She's in 4th grade now, the Silps. They're a class below the dwarves. Others are called salamanders, undines, gnomes, Silps, dryads, and spirits. She explains that the higher the class, the deeper he will be able to dive into more dangerous levels. He thinks about her words. Refria suggests that he register it quickly in the morning. Hikaru Kurose briefly agrees. Then someone comes out to them and affectionately calls Refria by name. A man with a bandana and a scar on his face asks her what kind of chick he is. He asks if he really came to join the ranks of the Tsutsiks. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand at all. What are these Tsutsiki? Refria irritably replies to this man that this is not the case and that he is with her in a squad, so she will not tolerate disrespect for him. The man comes up, slaps him on the back, and asks in surprise if that's really true, if she's on a team with this boy. He asks him what his class is. The other men are also adventurers looking at them. One says he's with Refria, another says he's so jealous of Hikaru Kurose. The main character at this time thinks that everything is going according to the script. If he tries too hard, and even if he gets beaten up, he thinks the audience will be happy. He was right. He now knows for sure that his rating will grow with the referee. Refria tries to defend him and say something in his favor, but Hikaru Kurose holds out his palm in front of her face, asking her to stop. The main character awkwardly says that he is just about to register, so he has a lower class. He calls himself a beginner. The man laughs and says he knew he was a pussy. He assumes that Hikaru Kurose is actually Refria's brother. He replies that it is possible, so to speak. He asks the adventurer who the Tsutsiki are. He openly replies that they are adventurers who swing a club right and left on the 1st level. He says he doesn't think it's a bad thing, it's just right for such chicks to dance with skeletons there. Then he adds that it's only in the maze that such fools die first. There is silence, and Refria looks at them. Hikaru Kurose raises his head and thanks the adventurer for the advice, and says that they will go for a club later. He turns to her, calls her little sister, and asks if that's what they'll do. The girl is shocked and more outraged. The adventurer leaves with a laugh and tells him not to bother her too much. He turns to the referee and says that if she changes her mind, then let her join them. An angry girl approaches Hikaru Kurose. She indignantly calls him by name and sternly asks what it is all about. Hikaru Kurose turns to her as if in disbelief and looks at her. The main character says without emotion that it's true that he's a beginner. Refria indignantly says that's not what she's talking about. She looks away, showing her resentment, and says that she's talking about Hikaru Kurose calling himself her brother. He says it's just a meaningless lie. He asks her not to take it seriously. Refria wants to argue again, but Hikaru Kurose says he was nice to him and gave him some advice. Refria looks at him resentfully. Then she snuggles up to him, stands next to him, and looks at all the other adventurers, who look at them with tears in their eyes and envy. They stand together at the reception desk. Refria clings to him even more tightly. The girl who registers is awkwardly trying to pretend that she doesn't see anything. They give him an orb. He takes this badge and thinks with a smile that he is in the 6th grade. He turns to the spirits and says mentally that he is now officially an adventurer. Refria turns to him and asks, since they are with him a combat unit of the detachment, what about the scouts? Hikaru Kurose thinks about the scouts and remembers about the grapefruit. He says doubtfully that he has a hunch where to look. The girl then suggests going ahead to search. They come to the Ogre Link's Mutual Aid Society. The inscription is hanging above the doors to this building. Together they come in and see a lot of animals that are sleeping, having fun, that is, everyone is going about their business. They start paying attention to them. Hikaru Kurose looks at them in surprise and thinks that it looks so much like a cat cafe. He is told that he can hire a manlynx, that is, a kotolak, by making a deposit of 5 silver coins. The main character immediately thinks that 5 silver coins is cheap, like half a month of rent in a cheap hotel. Refria looks and says that the lynx men are isolated and helpless. Hikaru Kurose concludes to himself that they are treated like weaklings in this world. Here the main character calls Grapefruit's name and says he wants to hire her. Grapefruit turns around in a panic and asks what was just said. She looks at him and asks who he is. She may not look like it, but she can dive up to level 3, so it will be expensive. Hikaru Kurose says with a smile that then they will count towards the portion of the potion that he gave her in the maze when her leg was injured. Grapefruit first looks at him for a long time and examines him, and then joyfully shouts that he is the same brother. The three of them are standing. Grapefruit touches him and says with surprise that she didn't think he would show himself. The lynx smiles broadly and sincerely thanks him for saving her in the maze. Hikaru Kurose starts to bring things up to date, says that there are such things here, then asks if she will go to him as a scout. She replies that, of course, she will go, even with pleasure. Grapefruit runs off somewhere, shouting at the referee and the main character to go ahead while she gets ready. Hikaru Kurose then suggests meeting later in front of the maze. Refria excitedly turns to the main character and asks if he really knows this ogre. He replies that he knows what happened. He tells her that she injured her leg and got stuck on the second floor of the maze. He tells her that he helped Grapefruit get to the exit. Refria, offended and disappointed, looks away and says that he helped someone else besides her. Hikaru Kurose just says that it's true, he couldn't have passed by. She shakes her head and says it's because he's kind. The main character says that this is an unimportant matter. There is nothing like that. Refria is still looking at him resentfully. Hikaru Kurose hides his gaze and says that whatever it is, they have to go, and Grapefruit will catch up with them later. Refria sighs, remembers something, and calls the main character by name. He awkwardly and irritably asks what it is this time. She asks him before going to the maze if he wants to upgrade his weapon. He thinks and asks again about the weapon. They come to the workshop, where the work is in full swing. The master turns to Refria, calls her cute, and asks if she really came to sharpen the sword. Hikaru Kurose looks at it and realizes that it is a blacksmith shop. The girl replies to the master that this is not the case, because today she wants him to forge a sword for him, that is, the main character. He is shocked and asks her what she is saying, how to order a weapon. The master looks at them with a stern look, while Refria calms him down and says that everything is fine, because the master here is excellent and the prices are reasonable. The main character excitedly asks if this is true, because his look is scary, he scares him. The man gives him a sword and says he wants to know what he's capable of, so let him wave it. He takes the sword and listens. He picks it up and looks at it in surprise, and then begins to swing it, realizing in the process that it is heavy. He is not used to swinging a sword. The master looks at it and, after thinking about it, says that he will be able to reach the 9th rank. He thinks he has the makings of a swordsman, so it suits him. Hikaru Kurose remembers and asks him what rank is. The master is surprised by his question. He turns to Refria Mila again and asks which village she dragged him from. The girl reacts awkwardly to the master's words, looking around in panic. The master tells Hikaru Kurose to listen here and tells him that rank is an indicator of strength that increases when he wins. It's the same with spirit magic. The more he uses it, the more powerful it becomes. The main character thinks to himself that it's like leveling up like him. The master eventually asks him what kind of weapon he wants. He begins to think that his fighting style is fighting under the cover of darkness, and a melee blade will suit him, so that the audience's heart will burst with tension and fear. The master looks at him expectantly. Hikaru Kurose declares, clenching his fist, that he needs a short sword. Refria happily says and praises that the main character is a skilled spirit magician. The master asks him again, that is, he needs a short sword for self-defense. He whispers to the referee that he thinks it will be faster to show his fighting style in practice. Refria tells him that there is no maze here, so it will be difficult. The master looks questioningly. Hikaru Kurose holds out his hand and says it's okay. His hand exudes dark magic. The main character says that the room is dark enough. The master looks at him and his skills in surprise. Hikaru Kurose uses a shadow spirit. Everything turns dark, including the master's field and the refrains. The master begins to reflect and realizes that this is the magic of the spirits of darkness. While he was thinking, Hikaru Kurose's hand becomes right at his neck palm. Hikaru Kurose causes the elimination, then the darkness dissipates. The master briefly replies that he understands how he uses the magic of spirits. He smiles sharply and then says that it has been decided. He will forge the perfect sword for him. He asks him to come tomorrow to pick it up. They go out, walk down the street. Hikaru Kurose says happily that he can't wait to have his sword custom made. Refria tells him to be calm. She vouches for the master. Grapefruit comes out in front of them and says that she was waiting for them. She asks how they feel, if they are ready. The main character apologizes for having to wait. He holds out his hand and wishes them a good collaboration. Grapefruit asks them if they're going to dive just the three of them, and she's very surprised. Hikaru Kurose says that there are certainly fewer of them than usual, but he thinks they can handle it. Refreya smiles and says that today they are only going to the second level again. The main character reflects that there are usually 6 people in a squad, but he realizes that a little recklessness can boost his rating. Grapefruit tells Hikaru Kurose that he, little brother, is certainly strong in the magic of spirits. She adds that Refreya is famous. The main character turns to her and asks if Refreya is really famous. Grapefruit meows and asks him if he didn't know. Refreya turns to him. Grapefruit begins to tell that she is a brilliant Refreya. The cannibals do not understand whether a beautiful person is or not. She says they all want to date her, and some even want to marry the brilliant Refreya. Hikaru Kurose sighs and thinks he understands, so she's a local idol. Refreya blushes and asks if they're really saying something like that about her. She thinks it's creepy. She clings to him and screams at Hikaru Kurose that he just has to protect her. But Hikaru Kurose does not understand and tells her that she is so strong that she will protect anyone. She says with embarrassment that for someone who fights without the magic of spirits, she is, of course, strong, but she asks him directly if he won't protect her. Kurose even looks into her eyes with fear. He starts scratching his cheek, looks away, and says that he will, of course, at least as long as they are together, he will certainly protect her. Refreya looks at him with her happy eyes. Grapefruit watches all this, and then asks if the two of them are dating. Hikaru Kurose screams in horror, and Refreya clings even more and says that she is not averse to dating him at all. Hikaru Kurose shouts that he didn't mean it that way. Grapefruit purrs, and then says with a smile that she feels the scent of love here between them. They all go down into the maze together. Hikaru Kurose keeps thinking along the way that, in any case, everyone is assembled. With such a squad, in his opinion, he will definitely take the first place. They come down and prepare their weapons. Hikaru Kurose says that today is the first day, so don't overdo it. Refreya says they will do their best. Grapefruit agrees with them. Grapefruit sees and screams that they just walked in, and then there are 2 Akras at once, one of them with a broken horn, both of them with clubs. Grapefruit says they both have guns. She asks them if they can handle it. They stand and stare at the monsters. Hikaru Kurose turns to Refreya and asks if she can overcome them if they go out one-on-one. Refreya confidently declares that he will prevail. Hikaru Kurose looks and smiles, feeling the excitement. Hikaru Kurose immediately starts moving and shouts that then he will take one on himself. He uses dark fog on the road and moves fast. While making his way to the monster, Hikaru Kurose feels unusually light in his legs and moves faster. As he gets closer, he uses dark magic, confident that the monster is now blind. In response, he furiously opens his mouth and swings a club. Hikaru Kurose uses a shadow runner, passes by monsters that they do not have time to react. In a split second, he exerts monsters from behind. Hikaru Kurose shouts to Refreya that it's her turn. Refreya obeys, raises her huge sword, and says that she will not stand on ceremony. She pushes at the monster, but it deflects her blow. Grapefruit stands on the side and shouts at her to dodge to the left, which Refreya does. At this time, Hikaru Kurose is also fighting a monster, and at the same time reflects that after leveling up, his body has changed, as if he had become a completely different person. He places his palms sharply on the ground and uses shadow binding. Shadows shroud not only the monster Hikaru Kurose, but also the monster Refreya. They stop moving. Hikaru Kurose shouts to Refreya that now it is necessary to act. She thanks him for his help and begins to attack. Hikaru Kurose attacks his monster from behind, and Refreya passes with his sword at the monster with a confident and steady gaze. Silence falls. The monsters are defeated. Hikaru Kurose says that they did a great job. He asks if anyone is injured. Refreya replies that there are no wounds. Losses only from that side, that is, from the monsters. Grapefruit comes over and says that the 2 of them are really strong. Refreya tells Grapefruit with a smile that they have a great team. Grapefruit smiles at her too and says it's good that she won. Hikaru Kurose sees their interaction and smiles warmly and calmly at them, and then he looks away, remembering what all this is for. He begins to reflect that, in truth, hunting at the second level was easier with such a team, but this alone is not enough, in his opinion, to raise the rating and bring Nanami back to life. Refreya calls him and asks, bringing him back to reality, is something wrong? Hikaru Kurose opens his mouth in shock and then says that this is not the case and that everything is fine. Refreya looks at him sadly and suspiciously. He abruptly turns away from them and cheerfully tells them to go. Rafrea stands still for a bit and then with a calm voice says that they are coming. In the evening, at home, Hikaru Kurose looks at his stats, calling up the menu. He sits on his bed before going to bed. He sees that the number of viewers has exceeded 300 million, but this is still not enough. At least 1 billion viewers are needed for the first place, and now he has 329,467,465 people. He tells himself that he has to fight to the limit, putting his life on the line. Thus, the first day of the race ended in 32nd place, so there are 13 days left. The second day of the ranking race begins. The master hands them a weapon and says that it is a scabbard made of black sakura and the blade is made of black iron. Hikaru Kurose picks it up and is surprised that it's all black. Rafrea is also happy and tells him that they would be perfect for Hikaru Kurose. The master tells about the weapon that it is a rare iron. It is sometimes also called heavenly. It is said that it is the favorite iron of the goddess of the night. The master says that it will be perfectly combined with his technique of the spirit of darkness. He is sure of it. Hikaru Kurose says it's just a beauty, he likes it very much. Rafrea says it's rare for Hikaru Kurose to smile so much, he must really like it. The master says that explorers and weapons are one, now this is his new comrade, so he must take care of him. They leave the workshop and walk down the street. Hikaru Kurose says it's the first time he's going to use such a good weapon. He admits he's kind of nervous. Rafrea cheerfully tells him that he needs to try it out in the maze as soon as possible. She remembers and says that's for sure. They are now in the realm of the great spirit of fire. She offers him lunch. Hikaru Kurose doesn't know anything and asks about the realm of the great spirit. She says that this city is built around a maze, with temples built in honor of great spirits in the north, south, east, and west. In the north is earth, east is wind, west is fire, and south is water. Hikaru Kurose reflects and remembers Grapefruit's words that the great spirits of fire, water, wind, and earth are here, in the great labyrinth of Meltia. That's what she told him then. Rafrea begins to get indignant and asks if he listens to her at all. She says that they are now in the western part, where blacksmithing is flourishing and there are many delicious restaurants. She explains this by saying that cooking is closely related to fire. Hikaru Kurose says that everything looks delicious and tells the referee that he is treating. Rafrea awkwardly asks if it is possible. Hikaru Kurose says it's a thank you for introducing him to the blacksmith. She is happy and wishes him a pleasant appetite. Hikaru Kurose thinks that he really would like to go to the maze as soon as possible. But sometimes it's not bad to walk around the city, he thinks. Hikaru Kurose feels something and freezes abruptly. He looks around in panic. Rafrea calls him and asks what he is doing. He asks her, but she didn't feel any shaking. She looks around too and says he's weird. She didn't feel anything like that. Hikaru Kurose holds out his hand and sees that the palm is shaking. The fingers are not calm. Rafrea suddenly shouts at Hikaru Kurose to see what's going on behind him. He turns around and sees that many people are looking back in panic. There is a huge fire raging. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand what it is. Is it really a fire? Rafrea understands what it is and tells him that it is the great spirit of fire. A huge creature walks through the streets without attacking anyone. People on the sidelines look at it. The spirit continues to walk, looking only forward. Hikaru Kurose looks at it and asks if it's really a great spirit. Rafrea says he doesn't attack people. Like a monster, but she doesn't understand what he's doing outside the temple. Hikaru Kurose asks her if this is really such a rarity. She puts a spoon on a plate and begins to explain to him. She says that great spirits usually just sit in one place and don't go anywhere. It takes a lot of effort for him to move. She changes her mind and says that a lot of sacrifices are needed. Hikaru Kurose excitedly asks about the victims. Rafrea replies that it is usually better not to talk about such things. The spirit is followed by many priests who are bound to him by chains. Hikaru Kurose wonders if they are sacrificing people. He calmly eats his pasta and asks what she's talking about. Meanwhile, the spirit goes to them and says that it looks delicious. This is where the delicious smell comes from, and that there is someone here who wants to be eaten. He approaches Hikaru Kurose and Rafrea's table and says that he has found someone who wants to be loved. Hikaru Kurose wonders in horror if he's really talking about him like he was then. The chapter is devoted to a story that happened a few months ago on the 4th day of rebirth. He was walking through the forest and heard a voice that was constantly laughing. Hikaru Kurose wondered what kind of voice it was. He kept walking and still heard that voice. He looked around and realized that something was wrong, so he had to be careful. He then summoned the fog of darkness. As soon as he uses the fog of darkness and sees that the fog dissipates to the entire forest and does not condense on it, he sees that he is enveloping the trees, flying away into the sky, and does not understand why the darkness has expanded. Then someone turns to him and says, while his hand is shaking, that he looks delicious. A shadow speaks directly into his ear about this. He turns abruptly to the spirit in horror. He clenches his palm so that the stone in him breaks into pieces. He falls back and breathes heavily. A light ball forms around him, which helps him see, and in front of him stands a spirit with long hair and wearing a hat. She laughs and says what a strange power he has. The harder she tries to get closer to him, the further away it turns out. Hikaru Kurosei begins to realize that the barrier stone saved him. Hikaru Kurosei asks who she is. She flies from side to side and asks if he doesn't understand what she is, even though he needed her so much, as she understands. She says he called out to her. She abruptly approaches him and asks again, come on. Now he understands that he does not need this barrier. Hikaru Kurosei begins to reflect that he needed her, called out to her. He thinks that after coming to this world he is never called out to anyone. He still doesn't understand who she is. The spirit smiles, stands in front of him, and asks why he is silent. Hikaru Kurosei keeps saying that she sees him inside the barrier, and he doesn't know what she will do when the barrier breaks. Hikaru Kurosei begins to think what he should do now. The spirit flies around him, pushes him to take action, and offers to solve this problem faster, and calls him his beloved. Hikaru Kurosei chases her away and tells her to get out of here. The spirit plaintively says that it's okay, then adds that he knows what he wants. She's doing some hand manipulation. A huge monkey appears in front of him, the spirit of fire, which is completely bound by shadow ropes. There are several of them. Hikaru Kurosei sees that it is a fiery great ape, but he does not understand where the spirit is screaming from here. The spirit of darkness smiles and says, stroking the monkey, that today is their first meeting, so she should give him a decent gift. Hikaru Kurosei doesn't understand what she's talking about at all. The spirit of fire continues to struggle and twitch. Hikaru Kurosei does not understand what she is going to do. The spirit of darkness is smiling. In the next second, she simply kills this monster, leaving only small pieces of its body. Hikaru Kurosei freezes in horror at the realization that she tore apart the fire monkey. She asks him if he wants to try it. Returning to the present, he begins to realize that he has the same feeling as then. Rafria tells him again that he's kind of weird. Hikaru Kurosei calls her by name and says that he is most likely targeting him. Rafria does not understand and asks what he is talking about. Hikaru Kurosei apologizes to her and says that he will explain everything later. He uses a shadow bag, pulls out an object from there. He breaks this barrier stone like he did in the forest. The barrier envelops them both, and the monster stops right in front of them. Hikaru Kurosei thinks that if it is the Great Spirit of Fire, then it can also behave like the Great Spirit of Darkness. Rafria turns to him again, and wants to ask, but Hikaru Kurosei does not hear, and thinks about the hope that the protection of the barrier will be enough. The huge hand of the spirit touches this barrier. His eyes are directed directly at Hikaru Kurosei. He says that he has found it. The huge hand of the spirit touches this barrier. His eyes are directed directly at Hikaru Kurosei. He says that he has found it. Hikaru Kurosei gets up from the table in a panic and puts his hand on it. The spirit continues to stare at him, and Hikaru Kurosei prays that this barrier will work this time too. This is all going on. Rafria asks if the barrier is definitely enough. The spirit's hand, which was resting on this barrier, abruptly pulls away. He doesn't understand and asks what kind of wall it is. He stands quietly at first, and then abruptly presses his whole body against this barrier. He presses his face against this barrier and looks at Hikaru Kurosei. Hikaru Kurosei is horrified, wondering if they are all joking, if he is trying to break the barrier. He looks at his palm after hitting this barrier a few times. Rafria and Hikaru Kurosei look at him in shock. The spirit begins to scream with rage. He screams that he's so close, but he can't get close to him. His body won't listen to him. He stomps his foot like a little kid. He's walking away from them. Hikaru Kurosei wonders if he has fallen behind, if he is some kind of strange, great spirit. Rafria sits quietly and asks Hikaru Kurosei what kind of barrier it is. He tells me that he uses a barrier stone. He tells me that he creates a special barrier that drives away great spirits. If it weren't for the barrier, oh, he would have eaten it. Rifria asks if he would really eat, and what about what he said about a loved one? Hikaru Kurose irritably thinks about the answer to her question and replies that he has no idea. He thinks to himself that maybe it has something to do with his skill. Hikaru Kurose, on the contrary, asks Rifrea if she knows anything about it. She doesn't answer and asks him again, when he has no one around, if he felt the gaze on him or maybe he heard laughter. Hikaru Kurose recalls all the situations in the forest and in the present tense with laughter and someone's presence. He shouts that it's true. He asks how she knows. She sighs and says that's what she thought. She answers his question that this is all a feature of a loved one. She says that spirits always gather around a person with this feature. She tells it in a calm voice. Hikaru Kurose thinks that it turns out that the laughter and stares he felt belonged to the spirits, not the audience. So the fact that he thought it was the audience was just his persecution mania. Rifrea says there's something she still doesn't understand. Hikaru Kurose looks at her questioningly. She furiously gets up from the table. She gets close to him and, with a serious face, asks why he can use spirit magic at all. Hikaru Kurose screams that it's too much. Why is she so? Rifrea tells him that such people usually cannot study the magic of spirits. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand anything. Rifrea says that to use the magic of spirits, you need to make a contract with a great spirit. The catch is that loved ones can't do this because the great spirits just eat them up. Hikaru Kurose is horrified by this information. He's starting to understand, so that's why the great spirit of darkness and this great spirit of fire said it looked delicious. Rifrea says they love people like him too much, and therefore, if representatives of the temple find him, they will want to take him alive. Hikaru freezes and wonders if she's serious. Rifrea asks him to keep it a secret. She asks if he understands her. He awkwardly and still in shock replies that he understood. He's still in a daze, thinking that his first skill would turn out to be a trap, but it's even ironic because he's loved in the end, even though he should be hated. He and Rifrea are walking down the street, and she's smiling. Hikaru Kurose keeps asking if this great spirit can appear in the dungeon. She replies that such a thing cannot happen. Great spirits do not appear in the dungeon because demon lords appear instead. He's even more afraid of mentioning the demon lord. Hikaru Kurose asks her what it is. She is outraged and shouts that he is studying the labyrinth and does not know anything about the demon lord, and then calmly says that, although she should have guessed that it was he who did not know anything, he awkwardly replies that he has already said that he is a beginner. Rifrea tells us that the demon lord is the embodiment of demons, which manifests itself when the spiritual energy of chaos accumulates in one place of the labyrinth. Hikaru Kurose wonders if this is any different from an ordinary monster. She says that a monster is a whole bunch of different spirits, including the spirits of chaos, and the demon lord is a collection of only the spirits of chaos. In fact, he is a pure force of chaos. She says that the most important thing is that the demon lords are no different from the great spirits in one way, so he needs to be careful. Hikaru Kurose asks her why. She replies that the demon lords also like to eat their loved ones, who is horrified and asks if she is serious. Rifrea smiles and says that such powerful monsters rarely appear, so let him exhale. He agrees with doubt. He thinks to himself that he has such a useless skill. He says awkwardly that, in any case, he is glad that she was the one who found out about it. If he was lucky and someone else found out about it, he would have been fed to the spirit. Rifrea leaves and says it's all because she's against sacrifice. Hikaru Kurose remains in place, and Rifrea is unhappy. She turns to him again and says in all seriousness that if someone finds out that he is loved, they will want to take him to the temple. She looks at him sternly and asks him never to tell anyone about it. Hikaru Kurose looks at her for a long time, then agrees, saying that he does not want to be eaten. She holds out her little finger to him with a gentle smile so that he makes her a promise. She asks him if he promises. Hikaru Kurose looks at her in surprise for a long time again. Then he holds out his little finger, intertwines it with hers, and Rifrea is happy and smiles at it. Then she remembers something and asks him if that's all for today, if he's going to go home. Hikaru Kurose looks at her, then says that no, he still has things to do today, so they will see each other again. Rifrea obviously did not expect such an answer. She forces a smile and says goodbye to Hikaru Kurose while he leaves with a serious face. As soon as he turns away, the smile disappears from Rifrea's face. Hikaru Kurose goes to the guild building and reflects that the group's business is going well, but this is not enough yet to take first place in the ranking. He clutches the piece of paper that the woman in the guild gave him. He understands that he has to do something. He goes back down into the maze, comes to a hole in the wall, and thinks it's a passageway to the third floor. He understands and says out loud that he will be alone now, so the third floor of the Misty Garden should be enough for him. The live audience is 364,421,995. He sees comments. Someone writes that he has a new sword, and it's cool. Another writes that he has excellent equipment. Someone would also like to have a similar weapon in another world. There are comments that it seems like the Great Spirit of Fire tried to eat Hikaru Kurose, and if they find out that he is a favorite, they can feed him to the spirit in the temple. Others are also reading the comments. Someone writes that Refria tried to invite Hikaru Kurose when they were saying goodbye to him. They think it's cute. The second one says that Hikaru Kurose is just a diehard. Someone does not understand and wonders if Hikaru Kurose really went without a reframe. Someone says it's somehow unwise to go to the third floor alone. Selika and Karen are sitting in front of the monitor. One starts saying something in a rage, and the other picks up and says that her brother is stupid. Karen screams, not understanding why he's doing this. He's teamed up with Refria to take the first place, so he doesn't have to take that risk. She already squeezes the computer screen, looking at her confident and courageous brother, and asks in a trembling voice why he went alone. Hikaru Kurose walks in the shadowy darkness and says out loud that he will go alone. He is going to explore the third floor and maybe go further. His sisters are already crying, not sparing tears, desperately and pitifully calling him brother, realizing that they will do nothing. They are wondering what awaits him on the third floor. Hikaru Kurose finds himself in a beautiful city full of vegetation. Everything is perfectly cleaned and furnished. Hikaru Kurose says it's amazing. He looks at every detail. He says that he has no prior knowledge, so, addressing the audience, he says that they can see this floor live for the first time. He hopes they'll like it. He says out loud that there are doors inside the maze of some unprecedented beauty. His hand is shaking with fear and excitement. He tells himself that everything is fine. He clenches his fist and declares that he has already made up his mind. He goes forward, decides to start moving forward. He holds his sword at the ready and thinks that compared to the second floor, it is much brighter here. His visibility is relatively good, but there is a slight fog. He holds the blade of his sword forward and says that he will start by exploring the nearby area. Suddenly, he stops in surprise. He freezes and says that there is something ahead. The fog clears and he sees a silhouette. He says out loud that it's such a big and fat monster. It looks strong to him. He says that nothing is known about the monsters of the third floor yet, but he understands perfectly well that it is better for him not to get hit with this club. Hikaru Kurose prepares to attack, while simultaneously reflecting on the fact that the audience is also seeing the third floor for the first time. He thinks that anyone who is even slightly interested in this should be attracted by his visit. He understands that this is why he has to explore this floor, even if he has to risk his life. Hikaru Kurose is afraid himself, but he doesn't take the sword away and says that first of all he will fight with it as usual. He slowly steps towards him and wonders if he will notice him. The monster is also approaching him with a club. Hikaru Kurose notices the monster's gaze on himself and panics, wondering if he really sees. He thought that the monsters on this floor would be able to see the dark fog. He decides to try to outflank as soon as H changes location. Hikaru Kurose understands that no, he definitely noticed him, but he doesn't behave aggressively. He thinks that he can attack him if he gets close. Beads of sweat are running off him. He's wondering what to do. He sees him, but to defeat him, he'll have to get closer. He understands that if he makes a mistake, it's definitely the end of the game. So he decides to use the dark fog, expand the fog zone, and he won't see it anymore. As he thought, the monster starts to turn its head sideways in panic. Hikaru Kurose hides in the shadows and prepares his sword to attack. He abruptly advances on him with a sword. The monster looks in his direction. He also prepares his club. Hikaru Kurose, of course, sees his movements, so he uses shadow shackles. The shadows bind and constrain the monster's movements. Hikaru Kurose passes by and stops behind him. He jumps and aims his sword directly at the monster's head. He plunges his sword into the neck of the monster, which does not have time to do anything. The monster evaporates, and a beautiful spirit stone falls from it. Hikaru Kurose stands and breathes heavily after this battle. Hikaru Kurose looks at his sword and says in a trembling voice that he was scared, but he managed to defeat it. He talks about his shadow shackle ability and thinks it's a useful thing. He reflects that this ability immobilizes for a short time. If you use this time correctly, then the effectiveness is simply enormous. He looks at his sword and thinks that he also has a great blade. He says out loud that his new weapon is powerful and easy to handle. Hikaru Kurose tells the audience that the blacksmith is a real master and forged a weapon made of black iron for him. He decides to keep moving on. He walks on, still in the shadows, goes down the stairs, finds something, then goes on, touching the walls, similar to the architecture of antiquity. He finds himself in a room with a chessboard floor, looking around in panic, as if he doesn't know the way out. He says with desperation that it seems to him that he is lost, so he needs to figure out where he is now. Hikaru Kurose thinks that the misty garden, as the name implies, is filled with fog, so it's generally difficult to figure out exactly where it is. He says out loud that he will try to get to the exit somehow. He's still in the shadows, no one sees him. Hikaru Kurose recalls that Rifria said it was easy to get lost here, but the more difficult the situation he found himself in, the more interested the audience would be. He walks as if nothing had happened, when suddenly he hears some sounds of monsters talking in their own language. Hikaru Kurose says that he has found more monsters, 3 large goblins. He sees another monster that looks like a bat. Hikaru Kurose decides to try using the summoning technique to test what they are capable of. He summons his nocturnal bugs. Small, dark butterflies envelop monsters and leave wounds from different parts of their body. They're all screaming in pain and a panic and don't know what to do. Hikaru Kurose sees that they are taking good damage. With such an attack, it will be easy to win, as he thought. However, here this bat is chanting spells and causing a rain of gravel. The stones hang over these goblins, and then, after a while, they fall down, directly hitting these butterflies. Hikaru Kurose is surprised and wonders if this monster can use spirit magic. He understands that this bat needs to be defeated as quickly as possible. He doesn't get lost and immediately uses the shackles of darkness to bind these goblins. The monsters are frozen in place and still panicking. At this time, Hikaru Kurose moves quickly, approaches from behind and hits the first, second, third, and fourth monsters in turn in the neck. They die and fall without having time to react in any way. Hikaru Kurose wipes the sweat off his face, sighs, and says he's done it. He says out loud, seeing the 4 spirit stones, that he gets tired of such battles quickly. He collects the stones, goes on, and thinks that exploring the maze alone can be equated to killing himself. Most people wouldn't even last 30 minutes here. He calls up the menu and sees that 400,185 times 989 viewers are watching it. He concludes that this risk pays for itself. The number of viewers is growing and is not going to decrease. Hikaru Kurose thinks about Nanami and thinks that this is the price he is willing to pay to bring Nanami back to life. He confidently declares to himself that he must risk his life. He goes further down the corridor and hears some voices that tell him that it's dangerous there, so he has to be careful. Hikaru Kurose wonders whose voice it is. He decides to look away and suddenly notices the monster's face, which is sealed in a wall with a tree. A huge hand made of tree bark appears from the wall and hits Hikaru Kurose directly. He manages to put his gloved hand. However, he still flies back from the impact and hits the wall with his back, which breaks it to smithereens. He is moaning in pain. Blood is flowing from his head. He holds the other hand with one hand and cannot understand what it was, that the wall suddenly came to life. He looks up and sees that the tree with the face is moving straight towards him. The face of this tree expresses anger and rage. He is rapidly approaching it. Hikaru Kurose sees it and wonders if it's a monster. The tree with the face is moving straight towards him. The face of this tree expresses anger and rage. Hikaru Kurose holds his other hand with one hand, which he defended himself with. He sees a tree approaching at the roots and wonders if it's a monster. He's breathing heavily and can't get up. The tree keeps coming closer with its displeased face. Hikaru Kurose thinks that the dark fog doesn't work because he notices it anyway. He addresses his dear viewers and says that he could not even imagine that there would be such a monster here. He slowly gets up and says out loud that he is not well protected, so this monster easily broke his left arm. He is sure that the audience will definitely like this situation. With his right hand, he raises his sword again with the attitude that he is not going to die. He regains his breath. The approaching monster looks at him questioningly. Hikaru Kurose uses a shadow step to fight him. He starts moving on the ground while the monster's roots are flying at him to attack. Hikaru Kurose thinks in the process that he has become stronger, and now he can use the shadow cloning technique, so he will have the opportunity to attack. He notices that the monster was able to get into his copy and killed him. He is surprised that he kept up with him. However, Hikaru Kurose thinks that this will be enough. Thanks to his clone, he went behind his back. He prepares his sword. He uses shadow shackles. Hikaru Kurose keeps thinking that he hasn't figured out where his weak spot is. Hikaru Kurose, as soon as he binds the tree, pushes it off the ground and flies to the tree. He thinks that if he cuts him in half, he will definitely kill him. He swings his sword at the monster, but realizes with horror that he did not succeed. There is no wound. In a panic, he decides to make another strike. He sees that the shadows are slowly starting to leave. He thinks in a panic that the shadow chains are over. Hikaru Kurose delivers the final blow, driving his sword into a tree as he turns to face Hikaru Kurose. Hikaru Kurose sees that the tip of his sword does not touch him in any way. The tree hits him with its fist. That Hikaru Kurose flies back and barely stops. Hikaru Kurose is still breathing heavily and realizes that he might not be able to handle it with one hand. He's bleeding and sweating. Hikaru Kurose summons a shadow bag, thrusts his hand with thoughts that he needs to do something, otherwise he will not win. Hikaru Kurose takes out a recovery potion from his shadow bag. He decides that it is necessary to heal the wounds. He pours this potion on his hand. Hikaru Kurose exhales, exercises his arm, and says with relief that at least his left arm is moving now. Hikaru Kurose clenches his fist and says it's great. He resolutely looks at the monster and thinks that this time he will definitely kill it. Suddenly, he sees that the leaves of the tree begin to tremble and move. He's waiting for something terrible. The tree takes in a huge amount of air and screams in its language very loudly so that everyone in the neighborhood can hear. Hikaru Kurose doesn't understand what he's doing. He looks around and sees that some silhouettes are gradually emerging from the fog. The fog clears, and he sees goblins with clubs who are responding to this tree. Hikaru wonders if he's calling for help. The goblins are approaching him. Kurose thinks that 3 against 1 is a bad thing. He begins to think in a panic about what to do. He is already thinking about the only thing, whether he will be able to escape. Hikaru Kurose immediately uses the dark mist as soon as those 2 monsters, besides the tree, approach him. The monsters start to panic because they can't see anything. Hikaru Kurose freezes in place, not daring to run. He thinks to himself that he can't run. He remembers all the moments with Nanami and thinks that he came here ready to die. He thinks resolutely that he should take the first place in the ranking and revive Nanami then. He confidently and greedily looks at the monsters because he thinks that he is ready to give his life for her. Then he adds that he is ready to kill even 3 people for this. He starts attacking and analyzes that the dark fog is still working on them. He immediately adds shadow shackles to it. He hits one from behind on the back. He hits the other from the side, hitting him right in the face. White spirit stones fall out of these monsters. Hikaru Kurose resolutely walks straight into a tree. In the process, he thinks that even though it's a monster, it's still just a tree. When approaching, he uses the summoning of night beetles, which fly towards him and begin to attack from different directions, leaving dark spots on the bark of the monster. Hikaru Kurose realizes that his insects must gnaw through him. He aggressively gives them the order to gnaw and eat him completely. He punches the ground with his fist and thinks that he won't even give him the opportunity to counterattack. He won't let him make a single attack. He summons the Phantom Warrior, who appears with a terrifying silhouette. It's like a separate demon with horns. The Phantom Warrior and Shadowrunner have increased their level. Now they are stronger, and even if he does not have enough strength, he will divert the attention of this piece of wood to himself. Now that he has summoned everyone, he uses a shadow step, after which another clone of him appears and separates from him. He cuts one branch of a tree and thinks that it is difficult to use techniques all the time, and that he will only have one chance. He runs swiftly right from behind, immediately using dark shackles, which completely binds this tree. Inwardly, he convinces himself not to pay attention to everything. He tells himself not to pay attention to pain, fear, or fatigue. He flies and thinks that he will try to fight from time to time. He asks Nanami to just wait for him. He stabs the tree from behind with a decisive knife, thinking that he will surely bring her back to life. From the last blow, this monster disappears, evaporates, everything gathers in one pile in his palm. Hikaru Kurose is breathing heavily, trying to catch his breath, and says that even though it wasn't easy for him, he thinks he's gained a lot of experience. He sees a spirit stone from a tree and says that he is used to fighting and has become better at using spirit magic. So now he decides to just look for a way out. The audience is watching him live as he wipes the sweat from his face. They themselves, terrified, say in a trembling voice that it was a dangerous monster. The other one says she's on pins and needles because he's so strong. They hear the words of Hikaru Kurose, who says that he has almost no strength left, but it looks like he will return home alive after all. He tells his viewers that he is finishing his research alone for today, and tomorrow he will come down here again, but this time with a group, so he asks his viewers to connect with him. One viewer calls for Hikaru Kurose's support, another girl begs him not to die, and a third viewer agrees with him. There are currently 472, 256,356,304 viewers on the broadcast, which raises it to 14th place in the rating. There are 12 days left until the end of the race. That night, Salika and Karen burst into tears from an exciting fight with a tree. They're shouting at him not to do that anymore. They watch as Hikaru Kurose says that he was injured, but he gained good combat experience. He decides it's time to leave. Salika sighs and leans back in her chair. Karen says tiredly that her life expectancy has already decreased. People write comments that it's the first time they've been so worried about someone. Others write that he is very brave, fighting with such a short sword. It's so dangerous. The third one writes that it is very dangerous to go down alone because such situations play well on nerves. Salika says that her brother, Hikaru Kurose, looks like he hates himself because only those who hate themselves are capable of such crazy things. She keeps saying he's going to do something like that again, and Karen watches, tears welling up in her eyes. She says that everyone is so worried about him. They watch as he and Refreya come to the guild and ask their brother not to die. At this time, Hikaru Kurose asks a question to the referee, who responds by pointing to the wall with flyers that this is information about monsters. There are a lot of unknowns on the third floor, so you still need to be careful. He comes up and sees a leaflet with an image of yesterday's monster. He thinks that's how this tree is called an ent. He reads that his weakness is the magic of spirits, and weapons are ineffective for him. Refreya easily agrees with him and asks what it is. Refreya smiles and tells him that with her sword, he is easy to defeat. Hikaru Kurose is shocked and asks if this is really true, because he has been suffering with it for a very long time. Refreya says that it's one thing when a monster has a weapon, but an ent is the simplest tree. Refreya smiles and says that you just need to chop it. Hikaru Kurose looks at her and thinks that only she is capable of such a thing. He looks beyond the pictures and sees other monsters from yesterday. He thinks that this giant dog-like creature is called a troll, and he reads that ghouls can use paralyzing poison. He begins to think that if they had hit him hard yesterday, he could have died easily. He strains at the thought. He is sure that one of the participants watched his broadcast yesterday. He needs to stream something even more exciting in order to continue attracting viewers, even if he has to take even greater risks. Refreya calls Hikaru Kurose and says that grapefruit is already waiting for them, so she asks him to go. He wakes up from his thoughts and follows her. On the way, he still ponders heavily that there are only 12 days left before the end of the race for the audience. In order to quickly increase the number of viewers, he still needs to push harder. Refreya sees how worried he is and suspects something is amiss. Grapefruit greets them at the entrance and says that she was waiting for them, and then meows. Hikaru Kurose thinks that after 3 days of studying in the group, he will take a day off. Inside the maze, they are fighting monsters. He looks like a troll. Hikaru Kurose thinks that he will be a support in their group. Hikaru Kurose binds one monster with his shadows and shouts at the referee that he needs to act now. Refreya looks at it excitedly and then stretches out her palm directly to the monster's face and then uses a flash of light. The monster scratches his eyes in horror because they are blinded by the light. Refreya wonders if it really worked for her. She thought it was just a useless and boring spell. She clutches her huge sword tightly, and with one swing she takes the monster's head off. A spirit stone falls from the monster's body. Hikaru Kurose praises the referee and says it was a great job. She happily approaches and says that she did not even think that a flash could be used like this. He replies that she also said that she would like to practice using the magic of spirits. Refreya smiles broadly and says that for the first time she was able to use magic effectively. She believes that it's all thanks to Hikaru Kurose. At this time, Hikaru Kurose only thinks that she, his sweet friend, the more active she is, the higher his audience rating will be. He winks at her and says he's glad he was able to help her at least a little. She replies that it's great. She suggests going to the 3rd floor tomorrow. Both Hikaru Kurose and Grapefruit agree with her. In the following battles, Hikaru Kurose reflects that when researching in a group, viewership ratings should be gained in battles. Even Grapefruit is in business. Hikaru Kurose generally releases his butterflies on the way too. The live audience currently stands at 512,000, 3,000, 9 people. Refreya is also fighting with all his might. Hikaru Kurose thinks that he will go down into the maze alone on the weekend. He understands that he will fight recklessly alone. He understands that it is very dangerous. He is surrounded by numerous monsters. He understands that this will not bring Nanami back to life, but if he continues to risk his life, he will definitely increase the number of viewers. There are currently 637,029,968 live viewers. There are 9 days left until the end of the race. Hikaru Kurose calls up the menu and sees that the live audience is 746,221,339 people. His place in the race is still 4th. He is intensely looking out for all this and thinks that if the audience growth continues at the same pace, he will take the 1st place in 5 days. Refreya turns to him and asks if he would like to go for a walk with her. He responds and asks where to. She indignantly talks about the exchange of spirit stones. She reproaches that she told them that they should go there. He awkwardly scratches his head, remembers about it, apologizes, and says that he completely forgot about it. Refreya asks him with displeasure what is wrong with him. He is in the clouds again, in her opinion. He awkwardly asks if this is really true. Suddenly, they hear a voice saying, "Get out of the way, give way to them." Everyone turns in panic towards the voice. They see numerous wounded adventurers completely covered in blood and unconscious. They are being carried by other people who are conscious. Someone is wondering if something really happened in the maze. The adventurer girl suggests that it probably is. Refreya is interested in what is there. Grapefruit hides behind Kurose and replies that something is wrong there, meowing plaintively. One of the adventurers screams in complete horror about the Demon King. He says that the Demon King appeared on the 5th floor. Refreya is horrified and says that this can't be happening. Even Grapefruit is in shock. Hikaru Kurose, hearing this information, freezes in shock. Wounded adventurers describe that it is too huge a wolf. It is all on fire. They are sure that it is simply impossible to ignite it. Hikaru Kurose asks Refreya if the Demon King is really a monster created from the spirits of chaos alone. Refreya replies that it is, that's right, and it's also very bad. She says that when the Demon King appears, he stays until he is killed, and only a specially assembled squad can defeat him. Hikaru Kurose asks if he only appeared on the 5th floor. He asks if it is true that if they study only the 2nd and 3rd, then there should be no problems. Refreya tells him that another problem is already emerging here. Hikaru Kurose does not understand and asks about it. Refreya says that he can move from floor to floor. The stronger he gets, the lower he will descend, she understands, and says that soon he will be on the 4th floor. At this time, Hikaru Kurose joyfully thinks to some extent that if he fights the Demon King, the worst thing that can happen to him is death. If he met him, he would definitely be able to rise to 1st place in the ranking. One adventurer shouts at everyone not to climb to the 4th floor. The employee shouts that the entrance to the maze will be temporarily prohibited. Hikaru Kurose asks Refreya how long the Demon King usually lasts. She replies that until the subjugation squad is formed, it will take about 3 or 4 days. She says it usually takes a large group of people to defeat the Demon King. She says worriedly that it is so dangerous that even in large groups there are always losses. Hikaru Kurose asks if he can join the subjugation squad. Refreya replies that he cannot. Because it requires a minimum of rank 4, she suggests that he take advantage of this time to rest. Hikaru Kurose only answers her briefly, which he understands. That's what he thought she'd say, but it was worth asking. Hikaru Kurose pretends to be sorry, of course, but there's nothing he can do about it. Refreya agrees with him. Grapefruit says that she will have a good rest too. Refreya comes to his senses from Hikaru Kurose's questions and asks in shock if he really wanted to participate. He sighs and replies that he wanted to, but there's nothing he can do about it. At this moment, he thinks to himself that even if he fails to join the subjugation squad, he will find a way to enter the labyrinth. He understands that this is his chance to take first place here and now. Hikaru Kurose looks around at these thoughts, while Rafreya looks at him resentfully and excitedly, as if she knows and reads his thoughts. Hikaru Kurose at this time thinks that he will put his life on the line. The demon lord is hiding in the maze in total darkness, a huge wolf with predatory eyes, ready to kill. The 10th day of the race is coming. Hikaru Kurose looks at the maze from the corner and hears the workers shouting that the maze is currently closed and that entry is prohibited. He sees a sign that says that the maze is closed due to the appearance of the Demon King. He says it looks like there's no one in the maze right now. He thinks it's great, so no one will stop him from finding the Demon King. He reflects that there are only 5 days left until the end of the race. He summons his shadow, hides behind it, and realizes that it's too late to turn back. He goes to the entrance and holds the rope. Suddenly, Rafreya stands behind him and uses a flash on him so that everyone sees him. He raises his head in shock. Rafreya says she knew he would want to go there. Hikaru Kurose, of course, recognizes this voice and realizes that it belongs to Refre. He asks her if she really guessed that he was going to go to the maze. She replies that this is not the case. She just saw him sneaking around the city. She anxiously asks why he was going to go alone, what he was going to do if he ran into the Demon King. He tries to find an excuse and says that this is not the case. He just wanted to walk around the 2nd floor because the 2nd floor is safe. Rafreya looks at him with the steady gaze of a parent. She grabs his hand and declares that he is too bad a liar. She tells him to follow her, but he just walks awkwardly and obeys her. The knights are watching and don't understand what's going on there. At this time, the two of them are walking down the street. Hikaru Kurose tells Rafreya that he won't go into the maze, so he doesn't have to guard him. He asks her about it. Refre refuses and says that won't do. She's going to be with him all day today. He asks what to do with the toilet then, what to do with it. Rafreya immediately says that she will follow him. Hikaru Kurose understands everything in horror. They walk on. Hikaru Kurose asks her where she is taking him. Rafreya turns to him and, with red cheeks, tells him that he will go on a date with her. Hikaru Kurose looks at her in surprise and asks her what kind of date. They come to the armor shop. Hikaru Kurose tells Rafreya that he understands that she wants to stop him, but it is not necessary to do such a thing so that he does not go into the maze. Rafreya turns to him. She has the goods in her hands. She says that's not the only thing. She's discovered something else. Hikaru Kurose gets nervous from her statements like that. Rafreya says he's been acting strangely lately, so she found a guild entry where he went down into the maze alone. She says he always looks like he's been cornered. Hikaru Kurose looks at her with concern. If you leave it that way, sooner or later it will just disappear. She raises her head and says that she was very scared. After that, there is silence. Hikaru Kurose now understands everything. He thinks she's been looking out for him all this time, and he suddenly smiles at the thought of her calling his name. Hikaru Kurose turns to Refre and asks what she would recommend to buy. She is surprised by this change of conversation and asks how he likes it. Pointing at the product, she believes that he will definitely protect it. He shows this product on himself. Rafreya is touched by his behavior and says that it suits him very well. Rafreya suggests that he go to another store. They leave the store. Rafreya says that today is their shopping day. He only agrees, saying that as the princess wishes. She rejoices and calls well done. During the date, Hikaru Kurose couldn't stop thinking about the race, but he thinks he had fun at least. As a result, they come to a store with a lot of women's clothing. Rafreya tries everything on and shows herself to Hikaru Kurose. She comes out of the fitting room in a black, billowing dress that accentuates her figure and asks Hikaru Kurose what he thinks if this dress suits her. Hikaru Kurose looks at her at first, says nothing, and then looks away and says that it suits her and that she is very cute. Then he constructively adds that the dark blue color suits her and emphasizes her fair skin. Rafreya is embarrassed by such comments. She asks if this is really true. Hikaru Kurose recalls the advice of his sisters, who said that even if a girl doesn't look good, he should still say what suits her. His sisters taught him that. They walk down the street, and Rafreya, in a new dress, exhales happily and says that they bought so many things. Hikaru Kurose thinks this is a typical shopping trip with a girl. Suddenly, Rafreya asks Hikaru Kurose if he was in the area of the Great Wind Spirit. He replies that he has not been there and immediately asks if there is anything interesting there. She says that there is a bigger field there, as well as a windmill. Hikaru Kurose is surprised, and Rafreya asks him if he has ever seen a windmill. Hikaru Kurose remembers his windmills in Japan and doubts that they are the same in this world, so he tells her that he has not seen them. She happily grabs his hand and suggests that they go watch together. On the way to this place, she says that the view there is also beautiful. She really likes it there. They approach, walking across the field. Refrea says that she can already see this windmill. Hikaru Kurose looks at them and is also surprised by their scale. She says there are so many wonderful things in this world. Hikaru Kurose agrees with her and thinks to himself that it's really beautiful. He thinks he's been dreaming ever since he came to this world, but once he wakes up, he's alone in a dark room again. He tells her that he hasn't spent time like this in a long time. She says that all she had to do was get him out by force. She tells him that she doesn't know what's on his mind, but she wants him to smile more often. She means it sincerely. He turns to Refrea in surprise and wonders what he understands now. He remembers the forest and thinks that when he saw that message, he thought he was crazy. Even if he is rich and the research goes well, none of this makes sense to him. But he has fun with Refrea and he likes to laugh with her. They are sitting on the grass in the fields. Hikaru Kurose starts a conversation and tells Refrea that she has taught him something new. He looks up at the sky and thanks Refrea for it. She looks at him in surprise at first and then smiles, closing her eyes, as if holding back laughter. She lies down on the grass and praises God, saying that she was afraid he would hate her for dragging him away by force. Hikaru Kurose tells her that there is no one in the world who could hate her. She asks if that means he likes her. He coughs and leaves it without comment, which makes her laugh. She smiles and openly tells him that she likes him. Hikaru Kurose thinks that if she hadn't smiled at him, maybe he wouldn't want to live in this world. He thinks that Refrea is always looking out for him. He said it almost out loud. Refrea stands up abruptly and asks him if he really said something. He turns away and replies that he didn't say anything. She sulks and says she's curious now. After some silence, Refrea calls his name. She says that starting tomorrow, she will join the hunt for the Demon King. She asks him not to do anything reckless. Hikaru Kurose looks at her, then turns away and apologizes because he can't promise her anything. Refrea asks why. Hikaru Kurose replies that he understands that it is dangerous, but he cannot do otherwise. He thinks to himself that he has to take the risk for Nanami, but he can't lie to Refrea either. Refrea reminds her that he told her that he would tell her about it later. She asks if it's really that important to fight the Demon King. Hikaru Kurose replies that it is true. If he does not do this, he will regret the rest of his life. He thinks whether he will survive or die, then, in any case, he will be left alone. Suddenly, she hands him a black envelope and asks him to take it. Hikaru Kurose looks at it in disbelief and asks what it is. Refrea replies that this is a paper about participating in a raid on the Demon King, with which he can join the hunt as her assistant. He jumps up joyfully and asks if this is really true, if he can enter the maze with this. She replies that it is. It takes his breath away. He thanks her from the bottom of his heart and says that she helped him a lot. She did not expect such emotions, so she is surprised. She smiles at him. Refrea tells him that he has already climbed into the maze, but at least he will have permission. He apologizes for this. At this time, he himself is thinking that there are still 5 days, although no, in 4 days the end of the race. They say goodbye in the dead of night, saying that they will see each other tomorrow. He closed his eyes so that he wouldn't see her worried face. He understands that she helped him without knowing the circumstances. He had a heavy burden on his shoulders, a burden of guilt. In the real world, everyone is discussing what kind of monster this Demon King is. Someone replies that it is a monster that consists only of the spirits of chaos. Someone writes that he has never seen such a thing before. Someone says about Hikaru Kurose that he always tries to fight alone. Someone wonders if he's dating Refrea. Someone is outraged. What is this? Is there really some kind of certificate for hunting the Demon King? Does this really exist? Someone writes that he is lucky that Hikaru Kurose will be able to participate thanks to Refrea, and lucky that she had him. Someone writes about Refrea that she is very sweet, but someone suspects that she is some kind of stalker. Someone writes that Hikaru Kurose clearly needs to be pushed if he wants to take first place in the ranking. There are only 4 days left. Celica behind the monitor says about Refrea that she was waiting for a man like her. Karen asks her sister not to make that voice anymore because it makes her stomach turn, and she asks why. Celica exhales and says that she feels calmer now. Karen agrees and says that now her brother, at least alone, will not trample on the Demon King. She says that her brother has such a face. It's the first time he's been like this since he came to another world. They should be grateful to Rafria for giving him a smile back. Karen says that now he is not only their brother, Salika understands what she is talking about, and there is silence. She encourages her sister and says that the end of this race will come soon. She agrees, and says that she needs to support him so that he definitely takes first place. There are adventurers in the maze. Hikaru Kurose wonders how many people there are. She says that it's not even enough for the first day of hunting the Demon King. She says with excitement that there will be even more people on the second day. He asks if everything won't end on the first day. Hikaru Kurose begins to worry that at this rate it may not be possible to gain viewers in just one day. He asks the referee, but someone will lead such a large number of people. She replies that of course they will be divided into smaller groups and they will go down into the maze. She tells him that when they meet the Demon King, Hikaru Kurose begins to realize that, in other words, they will have to stand in line. A certain commander shouts that they are moving to the third floor and that Sylvester's group will go ahead. The rest should stay behind and keep up. Rafrea leaves and tells Hikaru Kurose that they will see each other again. Hikaru Kurose says goodbye to her and wishes her good luck. As a result, Hikaru Kurose was placed only in a support squad. Suddenly, a hand falls on his shoulder. Alex stands behind him and greets him, saying that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He remembers the sauna. He approached him, shouting that he was Japanese, and that this was his first time meeting a reborn. He introduced himself at the time and said he was from Ontario, Canada. He said that he suddenly found himself in another world, as if he was in some kind of movie. He sometimes went to the sauna here, so he promised that they would chat more. Hikaru Kurose asks him if it is true that his name is Alexander. He is surprised and asks if he really remembers him. He awkwardly scratches his head and says that he has not come since that time. He was worried that he was dead. He is glad that he is alive. Hikaru Kurose thinks that now that he looks at him, Alex seems like a good guy to him. He smiles awkwardly. Hikaru Kurose asks Alex if he is also in support. He replies that he is, although he has recently risen to the rank of Dryad. Hikaru Kurose says that he is a rank above him. Alex says that this Demon King seems to be very strong. They say that no one has ever killed a Demon King before. Suddenly, he opens the menu and says that he almost forgot. He says he has a question for him. Someone was interested in him. He wants to find this message. Hikaru Kurose is immediately horrified. Alex asks him to wait a second. Hikaru Kurose panics and thinks about what other message. He clearly has a bad feeling. Hikaru Kurose pulls him, asks him to wait and forget about this message. He doesn't want to hear anything like that. Alex asks if it's accurate, like someone wanted to give him something urgent. Hikaru Kurose, sweating profusely, replies that he doesn't think it's anything urgent, so he just asks him to forget. Alex wants to argue, but Hikaru Kurose asks him not to say anything, and his hand begins to shake. Alex asks again if he's sure. Alex is already openly saying that this is someone from the family. They really wanted to get in touch with him. Hikaru Kurose immediately raises his head. Hikaru Kurose thinks that even if it's a message from his parents or sisters, he doesn't have the courage to read it right now. Alex looks at how Hikaru Kurose can't make up his mind. Alex sees the difficulties and apologizes to him because they don't have to think about another world right now. He asks him to tell him if he wants to read it. Hikaru Kurose thanks him. Alex says that at least his conscience is clear. Alex says that it seems that he is still alone with his loneliness. Hikaru Kurose does not answer him. They're walking through a maze. One commander shouts that there is a possibility that the Demon King is already on the third floor. He will divide everyone into squads and introduce someone from support to each group. Everyone follows his orders and supports him. Alex says that the further he goes, the stronger he gets. Even if he stopped at the fifth, it would be very difficult. If he's in third place now, he might be so strong that they don't even have a chance. Alex asks Hikaru Kurose what he's going to do if that's the case. Hikaru Kurose tells him that he will fight him, no matter how strong he is. That's why he's going there. Alex says that this is true, and that Mother Luck favors the brave, so they will show their strength to the monster. Hikaru Kurose sees that he has 900 million viewers. Is it really because of the conversation with Alex? He realizes that there are 4 days left. He has very little time left to be in the first place. He thinks maybe he can do it. This is his chance. Alex asks Hikaru Kurose if everything is okay. He cleans the system and says that everything is fine. Alex says that they are comrades, in arms with him, so he asks him to try not to die there. Hikaru Kurose asks him the same thing. Someone calls Hikaru Kurose. He turns around and sees the manlings. One says, is he really Hikaru Kurose? He's right dressed in all black. One thanks him for helping Grapefruit on the second floor. One of them asks if he is really a friend of Rufreya. He is the commander of this detachment. His name is Garnet. Then Hikaru Kurose realizes that they are all girls. Suddenly, Rufreya appears and closes it, asking the girls not to mess with him. Garnet replies in disappointment that she said she wasn't interested in men, but also that all men are adventurers the same. The third says that it looks like she just hadn't met Hikaru Kurose yet. Garnet tells everyone to stop talking, because it's time for them to move out. They all obey her, including Rufreya. Hikaru Kurose thinks that today is the first day, so we need to make the most of it. Inside the maze, everyone is fighting monsters, one with arrows, the other with a knife, and the third with swords. Garnet suggests we stop there today. They have a break until it's their turn again. The other interprets and says that it's time for everyone to go home. Hikaru Kurose stands there and is horrified that they didn't do anything today. The girls leave, and Rufreya asks him why he's doing this. Hikaru Kurose clenches his fist and begs her forgiveness, and then confidently declares that he is staying here. Rufreya wants to resist this. Hikaru Kurose interrupts and says that until he sees the Demon King, he will not leave the labyrinth. He tells Rufreya to go back and wait for the girls to come back. Let her have a good rest. He thinks he can't even sleep. He has to rise to first place. Rufreya looks at him sadly and then tells him that she will stay too. She puts her hand on her shoulder and asks if they're in a band. Hikaru Kurose is surprised at first, then says that's right. He thanks her. Rufreya explains to the others. Garnet likes it. She gives permission. As they explore the maze, Rufreya tells them that they are located between the third and fourth floors, so there must be another group somewhere. Hikaru Kurose thanks her for staying. Rufreya smiles at him and then points to a group of people nearby. Hikaru Kurose thinks that the probability that the Demon King is somewhere on the third floor is low, but he doesn't have much time left, so he mentally asks to show the Demon King. They approach a group of people. Hikaru Kurose says that they have decided to continue their research, and the guys tell them that they are happy to work together. Alex says they're happy too, and then he sees Hikaru Kurose and is surprised. Hikaru Kurose is also surprised to ask if he also decided not to return. Alex says that they think the same way, and the appearance of the Demon King is a very rare and curious event. Rufreya asks Hikaru Kurose if it's really his friend from the researchers. Hikaru Kurose replies that it's something like that. Those guys immediately open their mouths when they see Rufreya. Alex thinks that he saw this girl at the entrance to the maze. Is this really Hikaru Kurose's girl? He thinks she's cute. Rufreya tells them that she is from Hikaru Kurose's group. She introduces herself, bows to them, and says that she is glad to meet them. Alex introduces himself in a panic. The second says that his name is Cannibal, and that he is from the Sylvester family. The third says that he is Jardine. They ask if they want to play Krat with them. They always make sure that they don't fall asleep at night on duty. Rufreya apologizes to them and says that they want it to be just the two of them. All these words are hitting guys. Rufreya takes Hikaru Kurose with her. The three guys stay in place, sad and drooping. The girl refused them. Hikaru Kurose says that they are far enough away. Hikaru Kurose asks them what is the matter. They are already frozen. Rufreya asks if he thought they had a strange look in their eyes. Hikaru Kurose says they're all guys, so it's no surprise to him. Rufreya says that she would still like them to be just the two of them. They are sitting on the steps of the stairs. Rufreya says there's such a strong draft between the floors. Hikaru Kurose tells her that if she wants to sleep, then let her go to bed. He will wake her up. She replies that she does not want to sleep. She says it's too dangerous to sleep here if the Demon King shows up. Hikaru Kurose says he doesn't think he's on the third floor yet. He explains this by saying that he still does not feel it from there. Rufreya asks, meaning he can sense the Demon King. He says how to explain. He can feel spiritual power. This is also a feature of his skill. Rufreya happily tells him that then he can easily find him. Hikaru Kurose says that he will not be able to determine his exact location, but if he gets closer, he will understand. Rufreya says he's counting on him. She warms her hands by blowing the warm wind on them. Hikaru Kurose asks if she is really cold. Let her take his clothes. She asks if he won't freeze himself. He's shivering and says he's fine because the frost can't take him. Rufreya says it's written on his face that he's lying. she covers him with this material and clings to him. Hikaru Kurose is silenced by the situation. Refria says that if the two of them sit like this, then none of them will freeze. He says it's true, but it's too close. Refria says that she once spent the night on the stairs with the last group. She says she never imagined sitting like this with a guy back then. Hikaru Kurose looks at her meaningfully. He says that he also had no idea, never thought that he would be able to get close to someone in this city. He tells her that he is glad that he was able to make friends with her. Refria smiles and tells him that he's talking nonsense again. They smile at each other. Hikaru Kurose thinks that, most likely, after this battle, they will never go down into the maze together again. Hikaru Kurose thinks she's going to become the local holy knight, and he's the only one who's going to kind of live in this maze. They are sitting on the stairs. Hikaru Kurose is tormented and thinks about the phrase that he always wants to be together. He thinks it's just one sentence. Is it really that hard to say? Refria turns to him and says again the words that she likes him. Refria says that when they're together like this, she doesn't care what lies ahead. She's ready to move mountains. Hikaru Kurose listens to her carefully. He thinks that every time he hears a confession, his heart starts beating faster. He responds to her that he understands, but he thinks that they are not destined to become close people with her. Refria tells Hikaru Kurose that this is why she wants to be with him always. She says that they will go down into the maze together, rent a room together. Hikaru Kurose strictly calls her by her first name and says that he will not be able to be with her forever. He thinks that 7 billion people on Earth will see it. Hikaru Kurose starts to tremble. Refria sees it with a sad face. Hikaru Kurose realizes that he wants to be with her too. It would be so much fun to continue exploring the maze with her and Grapefruit. Refria asks him if he doesn't like her. Hikaru Kurose says that it seems like he can't just walk away from this question like a coward. He thinks about how Refria helped him so often. He opens up and tells her that he is not from this world. He decides that's why he has to tell her everything. Refria looks at her questioningly. Hikaru Kurose says that he came to this world from another world about 40 days ago. He says it's probably hard for her to believe, and Refria asks him directly if it's true. Hikaru Kurose says that this is the real reason why she can't be with her. He says that he is constantly being watched by people from his world, as if it were some kind of show. Refria looks around and says she doesn't see anyone. Hikaru Kurose says it's no wonder she doesn't see anyone, as if an invisible camera is flying behind him. Hikaru Kurose says he doesn't have much evidence, but he asks her to take a look. He uses the menu to pull out a blanket for 3 crystals. Refria is surprised. She wraps herself in it and says it's so warm, what kind of material is it? Hikaru Kurose tells her that he exchanged the so-called crystals for this blanket. He asks if she now believes that he is not a man from this world. She asks if that's the reason why he can't be with him. She says it doesn't matter to her where he's from. Hikaru Kurose says that he doesn't want people from his world to see him like that. Refria immediately blushes. She remembers that night and asks if they saw it too. Hikaru Kurose says that it is, and he's really sorry. Refria says it's okay, she did it of her own free will. She asks if that means he's possessive if he doesn't want her to be seen. Hikaru Kurose replies that it is, he does not want bad people to stare at what is dear to him. Refria turns to him and asks if he can't fight alone. Isn't that right? He needs her support. After a long silence, Hikaru Kurose asks her if he can tell her everything. He starts telling her about his past world and about his dead girlfriend Nanami, which is why he ended up here. And about the fact that he should take the first place in the audience rating. He told the referee literally everything. He ends the story by saying that this is why he ended up in this world. Refria, listening to a childhood friend, asks him if he was in love with her. Hikaru Kurose replies to her that they were not in that kind of relationship. He says that they had known each other since childhood. Rather, they were like brother and sister to each other. The referee thoughtfully says that they are family to each other. Hikaru Kurose says that he wanted to apologize to her. When all this is over, he is ready to do anything to bring Nanami back to life. Refria says with a smile that it's okay, she's talking about the audience, so let them watch, what's wrong with that? Hikaru Kurose says that he expected her to say that, but he won't be able to accept it. Refria asks worriedly if there's nothing they can do about it. Hikaru Kurose replies that they can't. Besides, she dreams of becoming a holy knight. He wants her dream to come true, so he asks her to forget about him. She asks him what will happen to him when they break up, what he plans to do next. Hikaru Kurose replies that Ono has not thought about it yet. He will live like an ordinary monster hunter. She asks him directly if he's going to die. He raises his head with an awkward smile and asks what kind of nonsense she's talking about. He's just going to live the same way he did before meeting her. Rufreya pulls him by the shoulders and shouts that he always lies when he makes such a face. The expression on Rufreya's face speaks of excitement. Hikaru Kurose awkwardly says that he is not lying, but the lifestyle will be real, like that of the Walking Dead. Rufreya says that she will stay with him and explore the maze together. Hikaru pats her hands and asks her to understand him. If he says the last concluding phrases, then it's just impossible. He thinks again that she likes Rufreya too. Rufreya sadly lowers her head. Hikaru Kurose is silent, but he hears a voice again, which tells him that he is here. He should be more careful. Hikaru Kurose does not understand what kind of oppressive spiritual force it is, he thinks. Is the Demon King really there? Hikaru Kurose immediately runs to the guys and shouts that they need to go back. He shouts to Alex that the Demon King is coming. They will meet him here. Alex asks if he's serious. Cannibal picks up the phone and says that he will call the others now, but she falls and rolls down the stairs. They shout that they can't call their comrades now. Alex swears at him. The other one shouts that they need to run for the horn. Hikaru Kurose looks down in horror and says no, they won't make it. He feels that a tremendous pressure is approaching from below. Alex asks Hikaru Kurose what they should do. Hikaru Kurose says it will be bad if he doesn't call for backup at all. He tells Alex and his other friends to run to the second floor and bring help. Rufreya whispers something to Hikaru Kurose. She says that his skill will most likely attract the Demon King. Instead of fighting him here together, they can take him to the second floor, then maybe it will be possible to unite with the others. He agrees with her and says he hadn't thought of that. Hikaru Kurose is shouting to everyone that they are changing the plan. He and Rufreya will go to the second floor. They will take the Demon King away, and they must deal with the rest of the little things if she appears. Rufreya and Hikaru Kurose stand while they run away. He feels the pressure getting stronger. He hears a voice saying that he is coming. They must run. They must tremble with fear. Hikaru Kurose knows that it's dangerous, but they need to take the Demon King to the second floor. In addition, to take first place in the ranking, he needs to see the Demon King with his own eyes. Hikaru shouts to Alex if he will clear the way to the second floor, who shouts that, of course, he can rely on him. He asks him if he has glasses, and he apologizes and says he spent it all. Hikaru Kurose realizes that he has only 1 point in 15 crystals. He wonders if he will have time to exchange crystals for barrier stones in an emergency. Then a voice tells him that he has come. The wolf comes out to them. Hikaru Kurose is horrified by the sight of him. He shouts to everyone that he is here, so they should all run. Alex screams that he understood him. Hikaru Kurose reflects that, in any case, he needs to meet with the others, otherwise there is no chance, so he must hurry to the second floor. He hears a noise from behind and turns around. He freezes in horror. Rufreya shouts at him to move faster. He sees the body of this monster in parts, its snake tail, huge paws, sharp fangs. This is a huge fiery wolf. Everyone is looking at him in horror. It's the Demon King.